The story begins with Sheramine telling some students that he has to write apologies, but he dodged suspension because he got involved with those delinquents. The students say he doesn't have to apologize. If it were them, they would have run away. Sheramine tells them that this is from long ago when he used to be bullied all because he was a transfer student from the boonies, so his accent and common sense were different. The one who saved him was the lone exchange student. Sheramine could not understand how she was so strong and cool even though she was so different from him. The exchange student told him that it is because she believed she is always telling herself to see it for herself and always be just. The conviction from those words made her strong, and this was the moment Sheramine thought he could also be strong. That girl moved away somewhere soon after that, but her way of life is his goal right now. He admires her. The student asks if he loves her. Sheramine says that he does not know, but he wants to see her and think about where she is and what she is doing right now. Sheramine recalled their promised exchange student asked him, if he becomes strong and she is in trouble, it will be his turn to save her. And as Sheramine was lost in his thoughts, a magical circle appears below his feet, and he is teleported to a big hall with huge windows reaching to the ceiling. Someone welcomed Sheramine by saying, "Welcome, the suitable one." And in front of him stood a man with two girls. They apologized for calling him without previous notice and offered Sheramine a seat. They told him that this is no longer the world he was in. This is a different world. Sheramine tries to mock them, telling them it can't be another world, but then he notices two moons and quickly comes to terms with the reality. Sheramine is informed by Deedhauser, who is the Intelligence Bureau Director of the Human Race Army, that he is a human who resides in this world. Additionally, the two girls are Amelia and Amelia, who are his assistants. Sheramine is unable to comprehend the reason that they selected him. According to Deedhauser, they want him to lend his power so that they can maintain peace among the people who live in this world. Sheramine is asked to look out the window. Deedhauser says the people appear to be content and prosperous at first glance. However, this peace stands on very thin ice. As Sheramine looks out the window, he observes that there are some houses that are unusually large in the area. He also observes a poster that states that pets are not permitted, but he can clearly see people walking around with their pets without any complications. Sheramine is informed by Deedhauser that there is a race that is distinct from humans that exists in this world. This race is referred to as the inhumans. It is more accurate to say that they are monsters. Despite the fact that Sheramine seems unable to believe it, however, he believes that this is becoming increasingly otherworldly. Amelia and Amelia tell him that these inhumans are described as filthy, cold-blooded, and cruel. These beasts are the most dreadful of all. Until not too long ago, this world was a perilous one in which humans and inhumans were mixed together. However, 10 years ago, humanity emerged victorious in a war between humans and inhumans that was led by the Dark Queen Fenel. These inhumans were vanquished by humans, and they were driven to the very edge of the world. The peace that we have today was constructed for and by humans. However, this peace stands on this ice. Deedhauser tells Sheramine that they became in possession of the holy sword Gravelins, which was the key to victory in the war. A single blow from it could destroy thousands of foes, cleave mountains, and split the ocean. It was capable of doing all of these things. If we were to say that the sword guaranteed its user godly power, we would be exaggerating the situation. Nevertheless, the power of the Holy Sword was utilized to create a seal on the Dark Queen at the conclusion of the war. Additionally, the person who wielded the Holy Sword was vanquished, and the Holy Sword is still in possession of the sealed Dark Queen. To this day, it is in the possession of the remaining inhumans. In addition, Deedhauser explains to Sheramine that the Holy Sword is inaccessible to anyone other than a suitable individual, and that if a suitable individual were to appear within the inhumans, the Dark Queen would be brought back to life, and the Holy Sword would remain in their possession. This would result in the destruction of the peace that previously existed among humanity. Sheramine is aware of the entire circumstance and inquires as to whether or not they would like him, who is the most appropriate individual, to retrieve the sword. According to Deedhauser, they would not be required to do this if they had someone suitable among them. He agrees with this statement. Due to the fact that they do not have any spare time, they will be operating an aeroplane from this point forward. When they are finished, they will take Sheramine back to the world he was born in. He is informed by Amelia that if there is anything that they are capable of doing, then they will do it. Sheramine asserts that he will assist them, and he is unable to remain still simply due to the fact that it is a different world. They have finally arrived at the shrine where the Dark Queen is sealed, as well as the settlement of the Inhumans that is located in close proximity to the shrine. Even though Sheramine is under the impression that they are actually giving off a monster vibe, Deedhauser reassures him that he should not be concerned and informs him that they have already gathered their soldiers. In spite of the fact that Amelia and Amelia do not appear to be particularly powerful, they are among the most important players in their army. He gives Sheramine the assurance that they will not allow any kind of danger to come his way. During the time that Sheramine is observing the monsters through his telescope, he comes to the conclusion that they have a life that is relatively typical for monsters. And even before he could finish his sentence, Deedhauser immediately gave the order to his soldiers to launch an assault using magic fire, the city of monsters blazing immediately. The Inhumans have also counterattacked to defend themselves. Deedhauser says that it is their first beast hunt in a while. The soldiers are looting the Inhumans' hidden beer and other things. One tiger-looking monster is trying to protect his children and asks what they did to deserve this. Sheramine is shocked by looking at the scene in front of him, and suddenly, Amelia comes and kills this tiger-like beast. All the other monsters are shouting, "How cold-blooded can humans be?" After fighting for a while, Amelia tells Sheramine spacing out can be dangerous, but they will still protect him anyway. His assistants tell him that they cannot eradicate too much. They still have uses for the beasts here, and their goal is right ahead. There is a girl with huge wings and devil horns turned into a statue with a sword pierced through her chest. She is the Dark Queen, and this sword is the holy sword that pierced through her chest. Deedhauser tells Sheramine that he should be able to easily pull the sword out. Sheramine pulls the sword out and falls to the ground with a sudden repulsion. Deedhauser tells everyone to get ready. They are about to face the Dark Queen. The Dark Queen has woken up laughing and says that the day her seal is lifted has finally come. She says everyone should fear and admire her, for her name is the Dark Queen Fenel. Everyone is shocked to see her, and Deedhauser asks if someone sent a fake one. The Dark Queen suddenly notices the humans and says this is one of the worst ways to wake up, but it will do just fine as a morning warm-up. She gets ready to attack them and says they will be destroyed by the full force of her spell, but she cannot master her power. Sheramine is confused and asks, "Didn't she always look like that?" The Dark Queen gets angry and asks Sheramine if he does not know her. Her real form is like this, husky, all big and bouncy. But Sheramine can feel his power coming from the holy sword he is holding. He can see it now. The Queen also understands and asks Sheramine to give her back her power, but as soon as she touches the sword, she gets shocked. She forgot that those who are not suitable cannot so much as touch the holy sword. However, Sheramine is thinking if this is a coincidence that the Queen looks like Fenel, who saved him from bullying. But he thinks that there is no way because this is another world, and that girl was not some evil Dark Queen either. On the other hand, Deedhauser is laughing at this equation of the Queen and says who would have thought that the holy sword would steal her powers while she was sealed. And on top of that, it would turn her into a child as a result. This is perfect, he thinks, and now they will be able to end this easily. Deedhauser has brought the Dark Queen for public execution in front of all the Inhumans. He asks Fenel to burn the sight deep into her eyes because it is the only reason he is letting her live. The Inhumans are discouraged. The Dark Queen tells them that they lost in the Great War, the war they waged for their dignity and survival as a species. Even after resurrecting, she is in this situation. She asks for an apology from everyone, but the Inhumans do not believe her. They ask if she expects them to believe that this little girl is the great Fenel. If she wants to try and fool them, she must do a better job. Deedhauser thinks that he did expect that. The Dark Queen lifts up her shirt and asks the Inhumans to carefully observe the tattoo on her waist. All the Inhumans recognize the regalia of arcana, and now they believe that it is actually the Dark Queen that is going to be executed. Deedhauser says he appreciates her cooperation and pulls her down, saying that this is her end. But Sheramine interrupts and says she has already lost her power and the Great War has already been won, so they do not have to go that far. Deedhauser asks Sheramine what his suggestion is. The Dark Queen is the pride of the Inhumans, and killing her can be the finishing blow to these beasts. If they execute someone important, it is likely to have the opposite effect, and they could retaliate. Sheramine is confused and asks Deedhauser if he is doing something wrong. He is afraid that he is participating in a terrible affair, but Deedhauser advises him not to be hubristic because he is someone who is not from this world, and he does not understand the humans of this world and the agony of the burden they carry. He tells him not to falter. Justice is on their side. Sheramine thinks that is true. He does not know anything about this world, so he should not be thinking about anything unnecessary. Fenel says they are nothing but prattle. She asks him if he is the one who dragged them into the Great War, the one who one-sidedly disrupted the cohabitation of all species, and the one who violated their homelands and their beloved. The one who led them to the end of this earth was humanity. Duelzer orders her execution. Fenel shouts one more time and turns to Sheramine. She does not wish to bow her head to a user of the holy sword that turned her into stone, but his eyes are different from others. His eyes show that he is not looking at them like they are dirty cattle. He has the eyes of one who came from outside this world. She asks Sheramine in his eyes how he sees the scene. She tells him to see it himself and always be just. Sheramine attacks and saves the Dark Queen because she not only looks the same, but also says the same thing as Fenel, who saved him. He did not understand what he was doing. Sheramine clearly tells them that he will be joining the inhuman side because he cannot see these guys as being just. Duelzer orders his soldiers to finish him off because even if he has the holy sword, he is just one person. The soldiers, like humans from other worlds, are not very clever and attack Sheramine. Nevertheless, Sheramine uses his holy sword to deal with each and every one of them by himself. He asks Duelzer, pointing towards the sword, that this thing was originally theirs, and that they are unaware that it is teaching him how to fight. He is pointing towards the sword. In order to assault Sheramine, Duelzer gives orders to Amelia and Amelia. During her attack on Sheramine, Amelia expresses her disappointment by stating that she had the impression that they both got along exceptionally well. Sheramine vanquishes both of them with relative ease. However, Duelzer informs his assistants that they performed admirably in the fight against the Holy Sword. It is because of this that he has successfully completed the deployment of his technique and is now attacking Sheramine with his gun. In his line of work, Sheramine believes that he would not be able to survive for very long. Fenel yells out and asks, what kind of an idiot would come up with an offensive type technique and use it directly? For his own protection, he ought to construct a barrier. It is Sheramine who inquires about the technique and barrier in question. It is impossible for him to comprehend anything because he is not a human being who lives in this world. In light of the fact that Fenel is the Dark Queen, he inquires as to whether or not she is unable to take action regarding the matter. Fenel makes a request to him to return the powers that she gained from that sword. At that moment, she suddenly takes Sheramine's hand and tells him that she is able to make it work, despite the fact that he does not comprehend what she is doing. At that moment, a mystical circle materializes on the ground directly beneath them. However, through Sheramine, she is able to draw out the power of the Holy Sword, and power is rushing into her, and she is back in her original state as a big and busty Dark Queen. Fenel says that she cannot touch the Holy Sword as she had previously believed. She has returned to her normal self, and everyone notices it. According to Duelzer, this information is not within the scope of his calculations, and he recommends that they immediately put an end to this situation and create a Crimson Sphere. However, Fenel tells Sheramine that this is a weak attack and that they will put an end to this matter in a single go. The Bane of Existence is the fourth technique that she is not allowed to use. To Sheramine, Fenel expresses her gratitude. According to Sheramine, she has also been able to save him. The question that Fenel is asking him now is, what are your plans for the future? Sheramine claims that he does not know because he has just thrown away the person who is able to give him the means to return to the world he was born into. His question to Fenel is, what about her? She explains to Sheramine that the inhumans have had everything taken away from them, and that this will continue to be the case as long as humanity continues to rule over this world. Therefore, she will once more be the one to take the initiative and lead the inhumans in reclaiming everything that is rightfully theirs. In light of this, she inquires of Sheramine whether or not he will serve as their rock of support. During the fight, she asserts that she has received confirmation that they are capable of standing together against them. She advises him not to get involved in their conflict because he is a person from a different world. However, Sheramine maintains his grip on her hand and reveals that he has previously stated that he will be joining the inhuman side. The promise that Sheramine made is currently on his mind. It is his responsibility to look out for Fenel. In fact, he made a promise to this girl who is similar to her. Fenel advises them to move quickly and get ready for the counterattack because it is imminent. Duelzer and his assistants are monitoring the city of inhumans. Amelia remarks, to think that they would get surrounded by enemies from both sides. All of your comrades were done in. It is her first time facing them, yet they are more capable than she thought. Duelzer is disappointed in Sheramine for betraying the humans and allying with the inhumans. The inhumans have started a revolt, and there are casualties on the human side, which was to be expected. Now they are ready to begin the Second Great War, the Inhumans, the Dark Queen, and the envoy of the Holy Sword. This time, they will obliterate them all and leave no survivors. Sheramine reflects on how he is in another world where the Inhumans were robbed of everything by the humans. Sheramine, who was summoned to this world and gained the power of the Holy Sword, has resolved to fight with the Inhumans, especially with their ruler, the Dark Queen. Sheramine is shocked to find Fenel sleeping in his bed. Fenel apologizes, explaining that it is a habit she has when she gets drunk. She seems to have gotten ahead during last night's celebration. Later, on a screen showing the situation in the city, Sheramine is amazed to see that they have television-like technology in this world, and it is a hologram. Just a short while ago, all the channels began broadcasting this. He notes that this is well-timed. Deedhauser, who is currently being shown, is humanity's ruler, Emperor Gustav. If they are unable to take him down, the Inhumans have no future. Sheramine sees that Deedhauser is also being shown on the television with Amelia and Amelia. Fenel comments that he should have taken a direct hit from her arcana. It's strange that he is still alive. Gustav addresses the humans, declaring that the inferior Inhumans revived their Dark Queen and seduced the envoy of the Holy Sword to join them. Once again, they are baring their fangs at humanity. He asserts that the rulers of this world are humans. The Inhumans, who were defeated in the Great War of the past, are only living now because of human benevolence. However, they have trampled over this benevolence and should not have allowed evil to build and nest in their world. Fenel acknowledges that as they are starting a rebellion, they are also preparing to start a war. Gustav announces the extermination of the Inhumans until none remain. This is a war of annihilation, their great crusade to purify their world. While Sheramine is experiencing a little nervousness, he is thinking about the fact that he has already made up his mind to fight alongside the Inhumans. Even now, he does not experience any remorse or hesitation. But he is uncertain about their chances of victory. Despite the fact that they possess the Holy Sword Gravelins and the arcana of the Dark Queen, their adversary is the absolute ruler of this world. Because they have a plan, Fenel reassures him that he does not need to be concerned. Particularly for the humans who have been at peace for 10 years since the end of the last Great War, preparations take a considerable amount of time. According to her estimation, it will take them a few weeks, and during that brief period of time, they will also prepare their forces. Following the conclusion of the most recent Great War, all of the remaining soldiers went into hiding in a variety of countries, waiting for the opportunity to act in retaliation. She made contact with as many people as she could a day before the celebration that took place yesterday. It is anticipated that those who are already in the vicinity will arrive today. Sheramine comes under attack from a person who suddenly leaps onto the terrace while holding two swords in each hand. However, Sheramine defends himself by placing his sword around his neck and demanding to know who the person is and whether or not he is an assassin working with humans. A young lady recognizes him and comments that his jokes are inappropriate. Lude expresses his regret for his impolite behavior and then introduces himself as a bestial individual named Lude Bloodfield. Not only is he aware of Sheramine, but he also desired to determine whether or not he was deserving of their trust. He conveys his admiration and gratitude to Sheramine for her role in safeguarding the Dark Queen. He claims that it was with great anticipation that he awaited her return, along with her 1,000 claws and fangs. A gathering of all the Inhumans has taken place in front of the palace of the Dark Queen, and they are chanting Fenel, Fenel. Lude, on the other hand, mentions that when she contacted him and explained what had occurred, he had some reservations. However, it is surprising to see her in the form of a child at this point. He puts Fenel in his hands and remarks that this form is quite lovable and brings to mind his daughter. He also says that he is reminded of his daughter. Because he is irritated, Fenel insists that he should not treat her like a child. When Lude joins the rest of them, he makes the observation that it is comforting to have the four most powerful members of the Inhuman army working together. On the other hand, they are unable to stand on ceremony because human soldiers are approaching them. Despite the fact that Fenel anticipated that it would take them some time to get ready, Lude explains that these individuals are not routine soldiers. There are approximately 30,000 members of the private army Biljit Co., which is the adversary. They are members of the Imperial Coalition, an organization that has been granted special permission by the Empire and is in charge of its colonies is known as the Imperial Coalition. For all intents and purposes, they have complete control over the Inhumans who have been exiled to these lands. It is likely that those colony lords who benefit from the labor of the Inhumans would like to avoid a war that would result in their complete destruction. They are probably making preparations to remove the heads of Sheramine and Fenel in order to solve their problems. As a result of the obvious disparity between their military forces, they are weighing their choices and considering their options. Although there is always the possibility of avoiding battle, the Dark Queen has stated that from this point forward, they are posing a challenge to the entirety of humanity. What exactly is he doing, cowering in fear at the prospect of 30,000 soldiers? Her eagerness to engage them in combat is palpable. In the same evening, the impact of the most recent Great War caused significant damage to Rio Alcarla, a town that had been built on the Great River, which had enabled it to thrive on goods that were imported and exported. Rio Alcarla had been a great trade city in the past. A ghost town has emerged on the outskirts of the city that was once at the height of its glory. The Inhumans, who have a total of 1,000 soldiers, and the human private army, which has a total of 30,000 soldiers, are going to oppose each other. Sheramine is taken aback and believes that this might be the appearance of 30,000 people. He is informed by Fenel that the holy sword he possesses and the arcana she possesses are the means by which they can overcome the disparity between their forces. The fourth forbidden technique, which is her ultimate firepower technique, has the potential to kill approximately 3,000 enemies. If she is able to use those one after the other, Sheramine believes that to be completely insane. On the other hand, Fenel cautions him not to become overconfident because she is only able to use her arcana 3 times per day. This is the maximum number of times it can be used. As a result of the fact that it cannot be used carelessly, they should deliver a devastating blow, and at this point they need to set the stage. In a conversation with Sheramine, she reveals that she will be utilizing all of his strength. Although Sheramine is uncertain about whether or not this will actually go well, Fenel reassures him that he should not be concerned about it because they have made preparations for it. According to Layat, he ought to take it easy because during the most recent Great War, the Dark Queen triumphed over a great deal of adversity over and over again. In addition, her true advantage lies in the fact that she is a skilled tactician. This is something that human soldiers are aware of, which is why there are only human soldiers present. If they were to use inhuman slaves, they are aware that Fenel will do something that they are unable to anticipate, and he is confident that Sheramine will soon come to comprehend at least a portion of the reason why Fenel is feared as the Dark Queen. The human leader demands that the Inhumans hand over the Dark Queen and the envoy of the Holy Sword in a manner that is both submission and obedience. They will spare all of the remaining Inhumans if they comply with their demands. Whenever Fenel inquires about the desires of her people, the response is unmistakable. Fenel makes the declaration that he will have to obtain her head on his own if he desires to have it. In the event that they do not comply with his demands, the leader will immediately execute all of them. He has stated that he intends to capture and enslave those individuals who do not kill them. The command to begin the assault is given by Fenel to all of her forces. Sheramine is taken aback by the scene that is unfolding in front of him, and he believes that this is what war may look like in this world. The cannoneers increase their destructive power and their ability to manipulate terrain, according to Fenel, who explains that it is centered around technical skills. Before their onslaught of military-grade techniques, even the most insignificant of tricks are meaningless. The importance of persistently attacking a barrier cannot be overstated, regardless of how resilient it may be. As a result, armies strive to strengthen their firepower by establishing battle lines, leaving the remaining territory open for the clash of might and brawn. She does not, however, support the use of this approach. She will also use a number of other techniques, including the Holy Land of Rebellion, the Reflection Barrier, the Sixth Forbidden Technique, and she will cast a powerful attack that will leave all of the humans in a state of shock. They convey to their leader the news that their barrier will not be able to survive. On the other hand, the leader is aware that she has already used one of her arcana, which she is only permitted to use 3 times per day. It is now clear to him that she is only planning to employ her arcana for defensive purposes. This was something that he ought to have anticipated given their lower numbers. Further evidence that she does not possess an offensive arcana that is powerful enough to eliminate 30,000 soldiers is provided by this development. When the leader gives the order, his men immediately charge and attack. If they employ soldiers who are trained to fight in close quarters, they will be able to completely destroy their defensive strategies. In order to turn this into a bloodbath, he gives orders to his men to finish off all of them in close proximity to one another. The human soldiers come across Layat and are perplexed as to how he is able to maintain such a high level of strength. They are informed by Layat that the soldiers who survived the previous Great War have been diligently training over the course of the past 10 years. He tells them that they should not believe the feeble blade of hired swords that are only interested in making money can reach them. Despite the fact that the leader believes that Lyot's high physical ability is exactly what one would anticipate from an animal, they are unable to prevail against overwhelming numbers. His men are to capture Lyot from both flanks, as he orders them to do, but Lyot inquires of the general whether or not all of them have gathered around him. As soon as the general realizes that the inhumans are attempting to flee, he gives orders to his soldiers to pursue them. The general is under the impression that they have concealed themselves within the city. In situations where their numbers are significantly lower than average, it is common practice for them to take up a position in a crowded area. This allows them to reduce the number of people they take on at once. This strategy, however, will not be successful because the area in question is much too large and the buildings in question are crammed together. No way out of this situation is possible. In the end, he believes that they are nothing more than beasts. There is no need to devise a strategy considering that they can easily prevail over them by utilizing numerical data. If they are successful in capturing the heads of the Dark Queen and the envoy of the Holy Sword, the situation will remain the same. A general makes the observation that Fenel has not used the 2 arcana that she still possesses. It is likely that she is preserving them. Also, he is interested in finding out the reason why Sheramine has not moved. It is possible that he is the envoy of the Holy Sword. However, through the sheer number of their soldiers, they are able to defeat him. There is also the possibility that Fenel will be unable to use her arcana in rapid succession, which the general is taking into consideration. If this is not the case, then it begs the question, why has she not utilized it after being put in such a predicament? He issues orders to all of his troops, instructing them to charge the attack and seize the heads of Sheramine and the Dark Queen. During the time that Fenel and Sheramine are seated on a clock tower, Fenel gives orders to all of the forces to make a left and right turn. The general is unable to comprehend the reason behind their decision to divide their own forces. One of the soldiers suddenly orders the rest of the soldiers to come to a complete stop because there is a river in front of them and the bridge is broken, which means that it is a dead end. From this point forward, the general is aware that they have gone both left and right. Along the narrow road that follows the river, the inhumans have formed a formation, and it will be difficult to eliminate all of them at this point. There is a river in this area, which is a peculiar occurrence that the general and his soldiers are unable to comprehend. The Dark Queen is seated in the clock tower, which was constructed in the middle of a river. The common people have a feeling that something is not quite right, and they eventually realize that the Dark Queen herself was a bait. However, it is already too late for him to order all of his soldiers to retreat. The Queen says that she has made Sheramine wait, and now is his turn. From the top of the clock tower, Sheramine leaps down while holding the sword in his hand. The human army is currently unable to move forward. The river is in front of them, the rubble is behind them, and there are no escape routes to the left or right. The only escape routes are the constructions that men have made. According to Fenel, they have successfully completed the entrapment. The Queen reiterates that a reckless use of arcana will not be able to deal with 30,000 soldiers spread out across a large area. On the other hand, she believes that this will be successful if they are all gathered in one location, if they are packed closely together, and if all escape routes are blocked off. The general is unable to comprehend how 300,000 soldiers could be trapped by 1,000 inhumans. It is not even remotely possible that this could take place. He is admiring the sky above him. They are prepared to launch an assault, and Fenel is currently holding Sheramine's hand. Fenel casts her fourth forbidden technique, which is called Radiance Destruction Bane of Existence. The stage is now ready for the performance. The general and his soldiers are in a state of disbelief as they witness the disappearance of half of their force in a single instant. According to Fenel, she has one more use of arcana left, and at this point they have the option of either submitting or dying without any justification. Today, Sheramine has come to the realization that she has already utilized all 3 of her arcana. They were utilized by her in order to reconstruct this area prior to the battle. Why would someone have constructed a tower in the middle of a river or a road that did not have a bypass if she had not done so? There is no possibility that such a peculiar city could conceivably exist. When the words of the Dark Queen are spoken to humans, however, they cause them to feel hopeless because they have no way of knowing that. It is possible that they began with a military force that was overwhelming. But in the end, they were dancing in the hands of the Dark Queen. Certainly, this is a triumphant victory. Fenel tells Sheramine that he has a long face, but with both of them as a team, it is like she said. It does not matter how powerful the enemy is or how many their numbers are. If she is with him, they can defeat them. In humanity's capital, Duelzer reports on the war to the Emperor. He acknowledges that although the enemy may have been a private army, the Inhumans are not to be underestimated. He informs the Emperor that once the super heavy strike cannon Atrilia is completed, the Inhumans will come to realize the sheer difference between human and beast. Since kids are sensitive to spicy things, Fenel asks Sheramine if he wants her to eat it. They are having another celebration after gaining new comrades. Sheramine advises her not to drink too much because it is bad for a child's development. It seems that Sheramine has a childlike perception of Fenel, which causes her to become angry. She declares that she will have him know that her true appearance is that big and bouncy form. She insists that it appears she needs to give him a one-time demonstration in order to make him completely comprehend her adult allure, which involves transforming into her original form. Sheramine remarks that he has thought about this before, but in that form, she has probably ensnared numerous men with her allure, or this is the kind of feeling someone would get from looking at her. He is pleased, and Fenel praises his discernment, boasting that her beauty has captivated more than 100 men on multiple occasions. It is inconceivable to the Inhumans that the Dark Queen would behave in such a manner. During the conversation, Lude makes the observation that he has never heard of her engaging in such behavior with any males. Therefore, in response to Fenel's request for his assistance, he asserts that Fenel is fully aware of all the complexities that are associated with men. After that, she inquires of Sheramine whether he is impressed. Sheramine acknowledges that it is surprising to think that she is on par with succube. Because he is placing his hand on her chest and asking about this, he is curious about the manner in which she will woo him like a succubus. The response that Fenel gives is that this is something that every man enjoys, and if he recognizes her as an adult woman, she will do something even more incredible for him. As Sheramine inquires about this more amazing thing, she is under the impression that it must be something that is more mature. However, Fenel informs her that they must wait until they are married before engaging in something of this nature. After expressing her dissatisfaction, Sheramine retorts that, given the circumstances, she cannot truly consider herself to be an adult. Fenel, who is irritated, challenges him by asking him if he will continue to insist that she is a child and whether he will transform her into a woman. The news has taken Sheramine by surprise, and she is at a loss for words. In order to provoke him, Fenel asks him what happened and whether or not he is just talking. After assuring her that she will not be able to get any sleep tonight, Sheramine declares that he will demonstrate to her what he is capable of doing. Fenel, blushing, asks Sheramine to throw himself at her, saying she will not run or hide, but her heart is not prepared. Lude pours a bucket of water on both of them and asks if they have regained their senses. For a while after that, Fenel is cautious around Sheramine in various ways. 10 days after Fenel's revival, inhuman soldiers from various lands gradually gathered. This place has turned into quite the camp now. Sheramine can really tell that there are all kinds of species among the Inhumans. An octopus-looking girl grabs Sheramine with her tentacles and says that it seems like he did not know anything about this world, and it looks like she will need to thoroughly teach him everything from start to finish. This person is Gloria Oliviella, an Aporodryad. However, Sheramine has not seen any other dryads, so he assumes that they are a rather rare species. Apparently, she is also one of Fenel's right hands, and honestly, he is not good with her type. However, Fenel has told them it is about time that they shift their plan to the next phase. Until now, they have only engaged in indiscriminate guerrilla fighting strategies, which are effective for avoiding another major battle. However, this is a survival of the fittest type of war. Only the strongest will survive, and it is impossible to decisively win this war using only guerrilla warfare. So they will procure a stronghold that can provide them with supply routes, manufacturing, and allow them to formally organize their battalions with space to train. Moreover, a base that can resist the humans' sensitive military forces. Their objective is already determined. Encompassed by various tech cannons and ramparts layered in tech barriers is the frontline army base for the human fortress city called Lude. They are standing in front of the city gate, and Sheramine thinks that it is huge. Lude tells him that this city was originally essential to all Inhumans, and after it was seized, the city was rebuilt. Sometime during that period, they made the citizens into slaves and forced them into internment camps, including his own daughter Leona. At last, the day to recapture Cold Lude has come. Fenel says that as it was already well equipped, it was proclaimed to be impregnable in the past. However, after the war, the humans' army withdrew from there, allowing the pretentious Imperial coalition to make a claim to it. If they take this place, then all the inhumans currently being held as slaves will be freed. He asks Fenel what the plan is. Fenel says they have yet to supplement for the loss of 30,000 soldiers from their last battle. This time they will be the ones with overwhelming numbers, and they will crush them with their numbers. They will enter the city through this underground passage. Lude says he will not fit into this underground passage, and Sheramine asks if he is sure that he would have prepared something for them. Lude says even with fewer soldiers, the walls are quite solid. After all, it would be great if they simply surrendered and conceded the fortress. The fortress gates are open, and Sheramine is confused if they are actually going to surrender. There is a high possibility of this being a trap. Fenel says although this is an opportunity to end this quickly, they will invade with their elite troops, Lude along with Sage Tree Gloria. However, Sheramine is not sure about her. As they enter the fortress, Sheramine asks if this is an internment camp. He can sense a strange smell, and in front of them there is a huge pile of dead inhumans' bodies, and a lot of them are hanging from the pillars. The inhuman prisoners have been forced to work as slaves for far too long. Lude is looking for any survivors and his daughter. Then they hear a man saying that he wanted to have them do some more work, but there were too many of them, so they had to fix how they used the ones that they could not find a proper purpose for. Some were to realize their paradise and come to use as their shields. All of the prisoners are standing in front of them, and Leona is one of them. The general says that because of the events from the other day, his company lost 30,000 soldiers, causing great damage and their competence to be put in question. But not only that, if they take this land from him, his company will be ruined. But he thinks that they possess exactly what the Dark Queen and his team are supposed to protect. He is Imperial Coalition Representative Director Bob Harton. He orders the prisoners, who are completely under his control, to dispose of the Dark Queen and her comrades. But no one moves, and Inhuman shouts that they cannot hurt their comrades, especially when they have come to save them. Bob smiles and presses some buttons on the holographic screen. The collar around the neck of the Inhuman who was defending the Dark Queen explodes, and Bob repeats himself and orders the Inhumans to kill the Queen and her comrades. The Inhumans start attacking them. Leona attacks her father and apologizes. Bob senses the hesitation and orders the Inhumans to put their backs into it, saying they have not yet learned. He explodes another prisoner. As Sheramine is about to attack, Bob asks him to not move because from this distance, his input would be fast. Sheramine looks toward the Dark Queen. Fenel and Gloria also tell Sheramine to not move yet. Lude says if this continues, their situation will only get worse. This may be painful, but all because in the past they were unable to save them, they have seen hell. He asks Fenel if she wants him to once again abandon them. Leona calls him Papa, and Bob realizes that she is his daughter and laughs about it. He says that here at the prison, they have tested various methods to dispose of Inhumans, and the best expression they get is when family members fight each other to the death. He says why don't they give all of them a show? All the humans start chanting, "Kill each other." Leona hugs her father and says if they refuse to fight, he will be killed, and she will not regret losing this flesh for his sake. Bob is thinking that they are mingling swimmingly, just like that person had planned from the beginning. He never thought that those prisoners could defeat them, and before Fenel can make her move, this was their objective. He controls the collar around every prisoner's neck. This is a burst-type technique, Gamma Bomb. At point-blank range, Bob says to Sheramine that he will not be able to block this with a barrier and everyone will be blown to bits altogether. From the very start, this was his plan. Sheramine cannot believe this is something a person would do. However, the Sage Tree has completed her analysis, and Fenel is now ready to attack. She apologizes that she made all of them wait, and now it is time to save everyone. She holds Sheramine's hand and uses her third forbidden technique, Vast Imperative Nullification, Unbiased Eyes. The collar around everyone is broken automatically. Bob is very angry that she forcefully canceled all of the explosive collars. Even with an arcana, if she did not know the code, making an example of them was a bad move. Gloria says thanks to those who had been caught up in the blast, she was able to analyze the code through the grass, becoming one with the plant life around her. That is an Aboradriad. She warns the humans to be cautious because they have killed all of them. Fenel says it is the same as it was in the last Great War when the humans, for their own convenience, abused other species to violate them. Now they should be wary because they are pointing their fangs of rebellion at their arrogant throats. However, Bob says what is wrong with their own convenience? They are being permitted to live by their benevolence. Suddenly, a huge robot-like creature enters the ground. Bob says that even if it is crumbling now, This is still a former military base, and they have stored it since they purchased this place. This year, in the last Great War, it would make piles of inhumans. This is combat Metakrieger. The inhumans attack the Krieger. Bob says one of the supreme rulers of this world are humans, and if they wish to survive, they should submit themselves as slaves. If they refuse, they will be annihilated. Sheramine confronts the Krieger blade with his holy sword. He asks Bob why he messes with the lives of others while smiling, and why he behaves to such a degree that he is better. He cannot understand how this world's humans are. Bob and his fellows understand that the Krieger cannot even compete with the sword, and Bob says they must get that response order. But Sheramine says that he would not let them run. He holds the hand of Fenel, and she uses her fourth forbidden technique to attack the Krieger. Bob cannot believe this and prays that it is all wrong. Why is he in this mess? Sheramine and Fenel confront him and ask him to shut up and punch him with their combined forces. Fenel addresses the prisoners and says that today they have reclaimed Lude. This is a day of celebration. Inhumans say this war is different from the Great War of the past. Alongside the Inhumans' claws and fangs, which they spent the last 10 years continuously sharpening, the envoy of the Holy Sword, the mortal enemy of their past, now stands with them. Now they will reclaim their lost freedom and glory. Sheramine is thinking they have got crazy energy. One of their comrades is broadcasting this to the other Inhumans so they can see how things are over here. Fenel says originally retaking Lude was the Inhumans' greatest wish. Corrected. Furthermore, now that the Imperial Coalition rule is gone, they have reached a critical point in their strike back. With the great increase of their forces, they have made it one step closer to defeating the humans. Suddenly, a man appears on the screen and says, "This is quite an impressive speech for an inhuman monster." A strong technique has hijacked their telecasting system from somewhere. Deedhauser says despite extending his hand, that how displeasing Lude and the Imperial Coalition are of no use to them. He says that the monsters cannot win against humans. Layat senses there is something wrong. Fenel asks him what he noticed. He tells her that it is nothing but wasteland for the next 100 kilometers. Fenel uses her sixth forbidden technique, Reflection Barrier, Holy Land of Rebellion, and she is surprised to see that her arcana could not reflect it. The city along with the walls. Deedhauser says that the super heavy strike cannon, Atrilia, has the entire continent within its supreme firepower. The super large type artillery has been finally completed. Deedhauser is confident that the invasive species will not even be permitted to show themselves in front of humanity. They will simply crawl to the end of the earth and be turned to dust. Hearing this, Fenel is happy and says, apparently, the entire continent is within its range. Fantastic. They will see the super heavy strike cannon, Atrilia. Deedhauser considers this to be sufficient for the time being. Amelia asks Amelia what she thinks. They must have looked cool, but Amelia says that they were not even shown. Deedhauser gives the order for both of them to get ready for the fight. It is impossible for them to take a break when facing the Dark Queen and the envoy of the Holy Sword. He believes that in the not-too-distant future, this location will convert into a battleground. According to Amelia, so long as he believes that they will be able to avoid Atrilia's line of fire, then they will have the opportunity to meet Sheramine. Amelia inquires as to the reason why she appears to be so content. Amelia expresses her belief that it would be an excellent opportunity to make amends with the boy in question. She claims that Sheramine was given the opportunity to listen to their request when they unexpectedly called him. She believes that he is a really good boy because of this, and the only reason he sided with the Dark Queen is most likely because she tricked him into believing something that was not true. This is a reminder from Deedhauser that he is their adversary. By his own free will, he turned into the enemy of humanity. In the future, there will be no reason to capture him. Therefore, they should not take any chances and get rid of him using everything they have at their disposal. Amelia, on the other hand, asserts that she believes Sheramine betrayed them because Deedhauser's explanation was too complicated. The things that he does not understand about inhumans and this world are those that, if properly explained, he is able to comprehend. According to Deedhauser, that is confidential information. Although he is aware of all of that, he did not make any statements that were inappropriate. As long as there are inhumans in this world, it will continue to be a world riddled with abnormalities. Deedhauser makes a request for clarification. That is the nature of this world. End of Land is a village in a certain mountainous region. People are talking about the broadcast from just a bit ago. They are talking about Fenel's revival and save. This will bring them freedom. Suddenly, a huge magical circle appears in the sky. Meanwhile, Fenel is showing the full picture of the super heavy strike cannon, Atrilia. In a meeting, she tells all the members that 4 days after the attacks, due to assessing damage, this is the footage they have grasped. It has a range of over 3,000 km with an initial velocity that surpasses 12 kilometers per second. They have developed the Mega Mechanism battery, which is far more massive. The mechanism is basically like a machine, apparently. Techniques are not only used for the military, they allow for the dual manifestation of tremendous energy and all sorts of phenomena out of thin air, just like cooking, telecommunication, and even a hot shower. This alternate reality is fundamentally reliant on these techniques. A special invoked prime field exem is required to invoke a technique. A technique itself gets the most output and efficiency when the invoked prime field exem is used. However, control through this method is difficult, resulting in a great burden being placed on the user. For more convenient and safe use, large mechanisms are made for more commercial use as a preference. Sheramine is talking about something like the combat mecha Krieger from before. Essentially, individuals who cannot convert the energy needed to use techniques alone use mechanisms. However, Sheramine says it would seem that their claim of the entire continent being within range was not a bluff. All things considered, what an unusual shape for a cannon. It is rather mysterious. Sheramine says it looks like a railgun. However, Fenel says all things considered, it is an unknown standard superweapon. Yet, watching this effort unity through contrasting lenses, if they successfully usurp it, it will be the same as having a knife at the human's throat. She is determined that they will acquire the super heavy strike cannon. Naturally, the human's grip on it is tight, and what Atrilia is built on is an essential frontline base to the humans. The Imperial Coalition soldiers won't even compare to the human army's regular soldiers, equipment, Krieger, and other numerous mechanisms. Lude says that he expects this battle to be fierce. He dares to say this, but this battle will be a milestone in their strike back, just as he desires. Tempering their fangs on the inferior soldier will only dull them. Comrade C says that is absolutely right, but even they have their own mechanisms out of huge machines. This is the light combat mecha light Krieger developed by Nguyen Chan, the Third Eye Ocula Trinitarian, and the engineering corps. She called this machine Deedhauser. Gloria thinks compared to the human combat Krieger, it does not look all that reliable. Nguyen says that she is asking for too much. All they have for materials are the brittle scraps of the broken mechanisms. Lude says in contrast with the low material cost, they can build quite a number of more. Also, they are connected to his workshop in real time so he can immediately correct combat data afterward. He will be able to rapidly improve. That is great and all, but he has one question. Why is his daughter the one who is operating this? Nguyen tells Lude that she herself volunteered, and she is actually the one who can best control them. In the internment camp, it was the prisoner's responsibility to do dangerous jobs and such using these. Leona tells that if they missed something or made a mistake, they could die or be killed, so she desperately memorized how to use them. Lude is angry and cannot believe that someone did that to his little daughter. Sheramine reminds him that they have already taken down those who were responsible, so he can relax. However, Lude says that he is against this idea. After he finally rescued his beloved daughter, letting her go to a battlefield does not feel right. However, Gloria says he should consider Leona's feelings. Even if it means braving some level of danger, she wants to fight alongside him. She wants to reconnect with him and make up for the greater 10 years that they both lost. Lude says that is very honest, but they should make sure that they pack a great-sized lunch. It seems like he has started misunderstanding this battle as a picnic or something. Another comrade named Lana says that Leona almost looks like a human, and that is because Lude's wife is a human after all. Sheramine cannot believe it and asks if he is one of the heads of the Inhumans. Comrade Jiro tells Sheramine that this is because before the Great War, humans and inhumans cohabited among one another and families like theirs were not all that uncommon. Shansuka says nowadays just the idea of that sounds unbelievable. She tells Sheramine to notice Leona's ears. She has got both human and beast ears and thanks to the skeletal structure and body fur. Hair varies as well. The quickest and easiest way to differentiate between a half bestial and half human is by looking at their ears. Jiro shows Sheramine his ears, and he is a half dog. During the Great War, they were considered grotesque, having the blood of the enemy flowing through them, labeled as 4 ears by both humans and inhumans. Jiro has cut off his own human ears. Lude has earned his status and trust even with his 4 ears. He is quite the outstanding man. However, all that aside, they should not withdraw. If it comes to hand-to-hand combat, their greatest trial will surely be how to reach Atrilia. Fenel tells them from here till Atrilia lies the land where everything was laid to ruin in the previous Great War, approximately 400 kilometers of wasted land. Naturally, marching their army across the wasted land would get them annihilated. It seems that the Great Cannon must cool down for a few hours after each use. However, that short time span is not enough to get their large military force across the wasteland. If they need speed, they can use aircraft, but they would snipe them, and not only that, their carrying capacity is also low. Someone suggests circumventing the mountain range beside Atrilia to shield them, but that would exhaust too much time. The stronghold itself is amidst arcana, barely being protected from Atrilia cannon fire. Her arcana reflection barrier, Holy Land after all, can stay active for 24 hours. She has been recasting it every day. They would not allow an opening to pass. In other words, they must bridge 400 kilometers and annex Atrilia within 24 hours, which is a rather unreasonable demand. Leia asks if getting close is impossible, then how did she get that footage? Fenel says that is an excellent deduction, but the truth is the path is already paved, a subterranean mole underground tunnel. She had heard they were mainly wiped out in the last Great War. Apparently, they had faith in her revival and, alongside the subterranean ants, conducted repair work. Gloria asks if that is not all they have got for them, is it? The way it is all provisioned. Fenel says indeed her arcana, the second forbidden technique, Kingdom Come, can manipulate inanimate objects at her will. They have expanded this subterranean tunnel so they could lay a railway. Sheramine is amazed and says that arcana are lawless. Liat asks an ant how far the path goes. The response from the ant is that they did not wish to be exposed, which is why they were only able to reach a location that was somewhat distant from Atrilia. She inquires as to whether or not it is her job to pound through the rest. According to Liat, if they are able to make use of her power, they will leave the rest to her. Now, however, let us proceed to the following location. The Cold Lude underground dock. The Eidkaus is the name of the large model landing craft submarines known as amphibians. It is also possible for Atrilia's base to have a front that faces the ocean. If they were to make use of this, they would be able to approach their base directly. According to Fenel, she is able to covertly advance their forces as close to their base as possible through the underground sea. After that, she can take advantage of their vulnerability and swoop in all at once. Additionally, she intends to make preparations for aircraft to provide backup in the event that it is necessary. In the course of this conflict, defeat will not be tolerated. In order to seize their victory, they will muster every available force at their disposal. After the building is finished, Sheramine calls Fenel outside. For what reason did he want to have a private conversation with her, she inquires. According to him, there is no immediate need to deploy the submarine fleet at this time. When he comes across some tasty food stalls, he decides to purchase some food for himself. The fact that he is so calm is beyond Fenel's comprehension. He tells Fenel that it is because he has faith in her plan, and he inquires as to whether or not she is uncertain about it. It appears that Fenel has noticed, and he is embarrassed by this truth. According to Sheramine, they will be together around the clock after all. Fenel, on the other hand, asserts that she is the one who bears the repercussions of his exhaustion for it. Deedhauser, who serves as the director of the Intelligence Bureau for the human army, is a horrifying individual. During the past, when the peace that existed between humans and inhumans was broken, as well as during the most recent major war, the inhumans were sometimes forced to endure difficult circumstances. Whenever they looked, they were always able to see his shadow, and the construction of Atrilia is not a feat that can be accomplished in a matter of weeks. She is terrified that perhaps during the previous Great War, he had already anticipated their strike back and that they were simply dancing in the palm of his hands. Maybe he had already planned their strike back. However, she is concerned that she has not adequately prepared them for the situation. Given the current state of affairs, she is unable to shake the feeling that she is not capable of gaining ground on that cretin. They needed something that would put them ahead of him in the race. Her food is offered to her by Sheramine. Advises her to consume it because it has a pleasant sensation. He explains to her that she does not have that face. In the event that she falls short in any area, he will cover it up for her by engaging in combat. He tells her to keep in mind what he said earlier, which was that as long as they are together, they are capable of defeating any adversary. Fenel expresses her regret and takes a bite out of the sandwich, but it appears that she is unable to tolerate spicy foods. She then proceeded to inquire about Sheramine's ability to consume something that was so spicy. Sheramine explains to her that the reason for this is that his world is filled with a plentiful supply of spicy things. As soon as he brought it up, Fenel inquired about the types of dishes and alcoholic beverages that are available in his world. As Sheramine points out, it is not all that dissimilar to this one, which is quite surprising. He is a fan of the spicy food that the lizard guy prepares. It is quite similar to Indian cuisine. In a similar vein, spicy Mexican cuisine appears to be quite similar to the cuisine of that bird lady. In terms of alcohol, he was not aware of it because, in his world, he was considered to be too young to actually drink. The statement made by Fenel is that she was considering paying a visit to his world after the conclusion of this war. If the food is not that noticeably different from what you are used to, then the thrill of trying something new has been lost. She inquires as to whether or not she is aware of how to enter his world. In spite of Fenel's refusal, Deedhauser is aware of the situation. All that remains is for them to apprehend him and then ask him to reveal the information. Noon locates them and informs Fenel that she has completed the task that she was asked to complete, at which point she requests that Fenel return to her workshop. Noon tells Sheramine that she has a question for him, and she asks him if he has any kind of understanding of what he said when he saw Atrilia. Noon states that she has a question for Sheramine. It is only because it appeared to be a weapon from his world that Sheramine tells her that he was considering it. On the other hand, they do not make use of it, which is a railgun of electromagnetic induction cannon construction. It is something that is from his world, and because of this, he is unsure of how useful it will be as a reference. According to Fenel, on the other hand, when it was fired, they reported seeing an electromagnetic wave, which suggests that he might not be completely off base. In essence, because techniques generate more firepower, and even more so because solid projectiles are unable to rip through barriers, techniques are the most effective means of warfare. The anti-barrier technique is one of the few methods that can be utilized to overcome a barrier. Due to the fact that the techniques have no durability, it is not possible to incorporate them with solid projectiles. Furthermore, there are no mechanisms that are currently small enough to be incorporated into a bullet. When it comes to a bullet that is the appropriate size for Atrilia, however, the story is another. In light of the fact that an arcana would not be able to reflect it, she is willing to wager that it contains a mechanism of some kind. Furthermore, the bullet, which possesses both a high mass and a super speed, causes an impact to such an extent that it is beyond the realm of common sense. In any case, now that they have a better understanding of the adversary they are facing, they are able to devise an additional countermeasure. According to Noon, that is a struggle. They were only able to produce the husk, and they would have to use their arcana to complete the rest of the process. In spite of this, they will not have sufficient firepower. Even if they were to collect all of the mechanisms in Cold Lude, they would still have a range of approximately 100 kilometers, but that would not even come close to being enough. It is Noon's opinion that the output of the Great Cannon is abnormal. In spite of the fact that they hum its entire foundation and hold mechanisms that supply energy for the firepower, it is highly unlikely that this will be sufficient to compensate for the output that is required. In the event that they possess 1,000-man link technology, it is conceivable that this level of effectiveness would be sufficient. Nevertheless, the user would not be exempt from responsibility. This does not appear to be a plan that can be fulfilled. Fenel is dissatisfied and believes that flying for 100 kilometers is quite insane. But if you try to get there from here, you won't be able to. When Noon tells them that they have no choice but to stick to the original plan, Fenel suddenly dives into the water of the pool. Noon inquires as to what has occurred to him all of a sudden. Fenel claims that she has discovered the solution, a way for them to get one step ahead of him. On the mock battle training field, Amelia and Amelia are practicing their skills with Kriegers, the human army soldiers. Monica Malfayet is observing them and says that she cannot believe their power because they have taken down 10 Kriegers easily. Their trainer says that he has been training them his best since they said that they could do anything to win. However, Amelia advises Amelia not to make promises without her consent. She asks the man to say something to her. Monica is observing all of them and notices that the Personal Army Intelligence Bureau Director, Deedhauser, is here. However, the details of their origin are unknown, but from their looks, Amelia and Amelia seem to be of marriageable age. She cannot understand their outrageous combat powers. Monica also notices that Amelia seems to have feelings for the director. However, these girls are special. Their potential is without question, not inferior to the envoy of the Holy Sword. They were made to be born that way. Her train of thought is broken when Deedhauser says to Monica that the training proved to be quite useful. Monica tries to show her gratitude for this and says that she heard the report on the Imperial Coalition and that all of those who had surrendered were slaughtered by inhumans. In order to exterminate those inhumans and avenge their fallen brethren, they will not hold back even in the training. Amelia asks Amelia in a whispering tone if this is the lie the master spread around earlier, but Amelia says that it is to once again plant the seeds of hate in the humans, who are confident because of their overwhelming victory in the last Great War. Monica welcomes both girls, and it gives her the feeling that their rank-and-file soldiers are meaningless. Monica says that she is kidding, but Amelia thinks she is a coward and points her spear toward her in jest. With that statement, he will only be in the way of their master's plan to eradicate the inhumans. Amelia stops her and tells Monica that Amelia does not really get the sarcasm. She says that they cannot do anything alone, no matter how strong they are. That is why she wants all of them to lend their strength to them. Then Deedhauser and his assistants leave the mock battle training field. Deedhauser appreciates the girls' efforts and says that if something else comes up like this, he will be counting on them, and tells Amelia to refrain from causing unnecessary trouble next time. Amelia asks Deedhauser that instead of waiting for the inhumans, when they do not even know if they will make it here or not, wouldn't it be faster to go and attack them? She says that 20 kilometers of wasteland is also an obstacle for their army as well. Not only that, the Dark Queen, the envoy of the Holy Sword, and the inhuman elite troops are all gathered in Lude. Before engaging them directly, it is best to keep chipping away at them with artillery. They are monitoring their every move with not only tech radar but numerous other types of radars as well. He shows the girls the current Lude covered in an arcana. If even a single car, boat, plane, or any such mechanism leaves, they will immediately know. Someone informs them that there has been a reaction on the radar out of Lude and a number of aircraft are heading their way. Deedhauser thinks it seems like they have made their move. In order to launch a counterattack, the human army general intends to use the aircraft Flugel. It has been confirmed by the inhumans that several aircraft from Atrilia have been deployed to the Lude base. The human race has completely given in to its deception. All of the aircraft that they have deployed from Lude are unmanned bait, and their primary purpose is to divert the attention of the Atrilia Air Force away from the battlefield. The humans could not have imagined that the inhumans were already right at their doorstep and that they had already surrounded Atrilia. This was something that they could not have imagined even in their wildest dreams. On the other hand, it would be a dream come true to be able to anticipate everyone arriving by means of the underground fortress that Gloria has created. Crossbreeding is a special ability that Arborians possess, which enables them to give birth to plant life forms that possess characteristics of the parent's mate if they are successful. An ant plant myrmecophyte, a plant life form with the ability to excavate and an interior that resembles an ant colony, was produced by him through the process of crossbreeding between a subterranean mole and an ant. The construction of this stronghold was accomplished by combining an ant plant with two subterranean organisms, namely the mole genus and the ant genus. It must have been a very difficult experience for Gloria to give birth to so many healthy and large children, but she feels as though she is glowing. Lyat, on the other hand, is of the opinion that he must not allow his daughter to witness this ability. In an effort to make him laugh, Gloria shares her thoughts on what it would be like if they attempted to have a child. A different comrade, on the other hand, inquires of Lyat whether they are able to verify the plot against Lyat. He reveals to him that the assembly squad is also making their way towards Atrilia in a manner that is comparable to their own, with the Dark Queen and the envoy of the Holy Sword leading the charge in this endeavor. While this is going on, one of Lyat's fellows draws his attention to the top of Atrilia, where Deedhauser and his assistants are standing. Lyat is taken aback by the fact that the director of the Intelligence Bureau for the Human Army is currently serving on the front lines of this early stage battle. After bringing out his telescope, Lyat observes that there are a few small cylinders that are attached with flying fidget apparatus. There is no way for him to comprehend what these things are. These are the various means by which Deedhauser is able to obtain information about their submarine. It is stated by Deedhauser that he has utilized such. He gave the order for the secondary battery Atrilia, in numbers 27 to 39, to start firing. The realization that their plan has been carried out is incomprehensible to Lyat. According to him, if things continue as they are, they will also be in trouble. As a result, he gives orders for all of the underground fortresses to come to the surface and offer assistance to the submarine squad. However, Gloria advises him to refrain from doing so because, if their plan has been carried out in its entirety, then there is a possibility that their movements have also been taken into consideration. The ground suddenly gives way to the appearance of a massive drill. It is beyond Lad's comprehension that they are employing techniques of an attract type, and he orders all of the subs to cease their surface activities. The fact that they are even breaking through the ground is still beyond Lad's comprehension, and as a result, he gives the order for all of the troops to set up their most formidable defenses. Deedhauser is pondering ways to circumvent the technological surveillance system and sneak up on Atrilia without coming to anyone's attention. The activities that they engage in, for instance, that cannot be covered would be those that take place underground and underwater. According to him, it would be an overestimate to think that it would be possible to find a solution to a problem when there are few options available. That being said, if they had not remained at Cold Lude, the Dark Queen and Sheramine would have been over here on the seafront. However, they chose to remain there. Deedhauser is adamant that he would rather see Fenel's impolite expression before he completely eliminates her. This is the case according to all the rules. If on the other hand, he continues to drag this out and allows her to use the arcana, then this opportunity would be for fun. Therefore, he makes the decision to finish this as quickly as possible, and after that, they will verify that she has passed away. It is then that he suddenly becomes aware of a response on the tech radar, which is located directly next to them, but is actually located above them. They are being approached by an aeroplane, and before they have a chance to comprehend anything, everything is blown away. A question is posed to Deedhauser by Amelia. What was that? An aeroplane that originated from Cold Lude? On the other hand, Deedhauser asserts that the radar did not detect anything up until the moment that it occurred. It materialized out of nowhere, and he is unable to comprehend what exactly they did. Subsequently, he becomes aware of the fact that Sheramine and the Dark Queen are collaborating in the sky above them. Noon made a huge thing using an arcana with a railgun 20 minutes ago at Cold Lude, and all that is required of Fenel and Sheramine is to launch themselves on it. It is essentially the same as a large cannon, and by using the railgun to shoot an aircraft, they are able to fly without activating any techniques, which in turn enables them to avoid appearing on the technology radar, which has a range of only 100 kilometers. The question that she posed to Sheramine was, why don't we send the aircraft up instead of towards Atrilia? Does he have any thoughts on the matter? When it comes to the test ride, the boy is not very enthusiastic. Sheramine reported that he had the belief that they would perish. In the meantime, Noon asserts that this method ought to have been roughly capable of withstanding the amount of backlash. On the other hand, the chair did not make it, so how is she going to go about transporting them 400 kilometers away if she shoots them upward? The explanation that Fenel provides is that after a certain point, they will glide towards the cannon. This particular airframe has a gliding ratio of more than 40, which means that it is able to travel a distance of 400 kilometers before descending by 10 kilometers in altitude. She is going to use her technique full output to crash this when they arrive directly above Atrilia once they have arrived. Furthermore, Sheramine is of the opinion that this is completely insane when they are in the aircraft flying over the wasteland. As a matter of fact, the Earth was blue. The way that he is expressing himself and the subject matter that he is discussing are beyond Fenel's comprehension. On the occasion of his birthday, they have launched satellites into space and even constructed a space station in one of the locations. It is he who inquires of Fenel whether or not there is any space development taking place in this world. Surprisingly, the civilization of this world is quite advanced. However, Fenel informs him that, despite how disheartening it may sound, space is cursed in this world. According to the annals of history, there was a period of time when the inhabitants of this planet endeavored to explore the boundaries of space. However, each time they were able to break through the atmosphere, they were inevitably met with a mysterious explosion that would cause them to fall back down to the earth. Because of this, at some point in time, the phrase that this is the curse started to spread throughout the world. There is a legend that has come to be known as the curse of the second moon, which describes how the heavens look down on the life that exists on this planet. As soon as the young boy takes a look at the second moon, he experiences a peculiar sensation and believes that it is, observes that he is being watched by another person. Fenel, on the other hand, asserts that the threat she describes is already present and that they are on the verge of arriving at their destination. She asks Sheramine to get into the evacuation pod first because he is going to use her maximum output, and she is going to give those conceited humans a taste of what they are capable of. She attacks the cannon with this specific attack, which she refers to as the Hammer of the Dark Queen, Earthshaker. Fenel explains to Deedhauser that the lesson he taught them was about the sheer force of utilizing the combined kinetic energy that is born from extreme altitude, extreme velocity, and extreme mass, and that she is here to return it back to him. This brings us back to the present time. According to what appears to be the case, the man is irate and mentions the stave of rose from God Hypersonic Glider. Fenel, on the other hand, tells him that their retaliatory strike cannot be stopped until the day that they regain their freedom and glory. They are now prepared to begin the process of claiming Atrilia and Deedhauser's heads, despite the fact that Lude has also joined them. According to Deedhauser, the aircraft fleet that they have destroyed was coming from the direction of Lude. He is completely unable to comprehend what has transpired over the past 10 minutes. He inquires of the Dark Queen as to whether or not it is her doing. Despite the fact that someone has informed him that they are interacting with the front lines, he utters in a furious manner that he will slaughter each and every one of them. Fenel uses her second forbidden technique, which is called Reconstruct Kingdom Come. According to Deedhauser, the manipulation of inorganic substances is her second technique that will not be allowed. He is aware that he warned them not to approach the Dark Queen without paying attention, but these individuals are completely insane. In a manner reminiscent of a maniacal villain, Fenel laughs and then declares, "Tremble in fear of the Dark Queen. She will take possession of Atrilia and the head of the individual who is said to be the most closely associated with the human emperor, which would be Deedhauser. She will do this for the sake of her inhuman allies." During this time, Deedhauser has stated that he will retaliate against her by saying the same thing. According to him, the inhuman army will break down in the same way that it did during the previous Great War if the Dark Queen is not present. It is then that his forces begin their assault on the Dark Queen, the survivors, and the combat mecha Kriegers. In addition to taking care of them, Sheramine reminds Deedhauser that he must not forget about Deedhauser. Just like this Krieger, who is already scrapped from receiving his hammer of the Dark Queen, Earthshaker, any adversary that approaches Fenel will find him standing in their way. This is the case for any enemy that approaches Fenel. It would appear that they are using their methods to drive it to move against its will, which indicates that it is a trap. The request is made to Sheramine by Fenel to cover his eyes and ears. They were startled when a blazing flash suddenly appeared in front of them, causing their eyes to burn. According to Deedhauser, he is conversant with Sheramine, which is the reason why he is going to finish him off first. The Fenel employ a barrier in order to safeguard themselves. Due to the fact that the envoy of the Holy Sword and the Dark Queen in that form should not be able to use techniques, Deedhauser and his assistants are taken aback by the fact that they have utilized a barrier. Nevertheless, it is not unreasonable for them to be able to triumph over that relatively minor obstacle. A few days ago, she was practicing the railgun inside Nguyen's workshop at Lude. It was a time when she was making progress. At that precise moment, Sheramine was positioned physically in front of the target. Fearful, Sheramine asks whether or not she is attempting to take his life. She is concerned about the possibility. Nguyen explains to him that he is safe and sound as a result of the barrier, and he receives this explanation. Because of this, it should be able to significantly reduce the amount of damage that is brought about by a technique. On the other hand, a person who is unable to establish a barrier should not engage in combat on the front lines because it is not only extremely dangerous, but also extremely dangerous. I am not joking when I say that even flying rubble has the potential to be the end of him. I am serious about this prediction. As a consequence of this, this is the point at which Nguyen's one-of-a-kind compact mechanism barrier comes into play. The development of it has been commissioned by Fenel. In any case, it offered them an instantaneous salvation. The human soldiers who served in the army, on the other hand, are surprisingly still alive and kicking. The explosion caused by her hammer of the Dark Queen, Earthshaker, must have been endured by them, and they must have also quickly deployed a barrier. As far as Fenel is concerned, she had intended for them to be in a state of disarray. However, it appears that they have already recovered. When it comes to Sheramine's holy sword, it appears that they are not coming within its range. Not only that, but they have disregarded the theory of technique battles and are all going their separate ways, most likely in order to avoid her fourth arcana. The fact that they are all well trained leads her to believe that the soldiers who are in the vicinity of them will be in danger. Sheramine inquires about the actions that they intend to take in that scenario. She employs her seventh illicit technique, which is referred to as Wings of Strength, Forces of Rage. When Amelia and Amelia hear that, they are filled with fear and wonder. What is the deal with that arcana? She did not have this in her file. Prior to the soldiers even having a chance to fire, Fenel suddenly attacks them with her wings, causing them to sustain a significant amount of damage. The seventh forbidden technique that she possesses is the ability to transform her arcana into wings that resemble blades. When she thinks about how long it has been since she used it, she is curious. A girl is unable to believe that Sheramine ran. but she has a strong suspicion that she did not. Fenel is asked by a young boy why they are not yet holding hands because she is still quite large. He is informed by Fenel that she is able to temporarily remain in her original form if she consumes the wings that contain the power of his arcana. As a result of this arcana's lower destructive power and more specialized application, the other arcana was given priority, which prevented this one from having the opportunity to shine. On the other hand, given her current physique, it is exceptionally convenient. Sheramine is frightened when all of a sudden, an arcana emerges from the ground. Fenel tells him to remain calm and tells him that he has assisted in the activation of this arcana, which means that both of them have authority over the soldiers. In order to finish the Holy Sword, they carried out the necessary actions. However, it is possible that the power of the Holy Sword alone will not be sufficient to keep him safe. Therefore, she suggests that he take this with him, and it will activate in accordance with his will. The advice that Fenel gives him is that they ought to get back together with Lyat's underground group as well as the submarine group. Given that they have been defeated, it is imperative that they go and offer assistance to them. As they proceed a little further, they become aware of a substantial barrier that is most likely erected by Deedhauser in order to divide them into two groups. Sheramine motions for her to move aside, and then he uses his sword to break through the barrier. They are taken aback by the speed with which it returns to its normal state. It reactivates continuously, which is a feature that distinguishes it from your typical barrier, comparable to slicing through a waterfall. According to Fenel, it is possible that it is a device. However, it is potentially hazardous for them to go there by themselves, and there may be additional traps in the area. As a result of Sheramine's inability to provide support for her from this side, they have decided to part ways. According to Fenel, she will go and provide support for the submarine fleet, and Sheramine will reassemble with Lyat's subterranean fleet, and then she will destroy this enormous barrier deployment device. They will then return and reorganize themselves after that. Before asking Fenel if she still possesses those wings, Sheramine inquires as to whether or not that will be okay. Additionally, he is concerned that she will be unable to make use of her third arcana if he is not present. The fact that Fenel claims she will be helpless means that he will have to quickly reorganize his plans with her. Otherwise, she might find herself in a precarious circumstance. After giving each other a high five through the barriers, they part ways. Deedhauser gives the order for his assistant to go to Sheramine's side, and he will be the one to bring the Dark Queen down. Amelia, on the other hand, asserts that it would be in their best interest to remain together because they have already surpassed their expectations. At the very least, he will not be passing away, according to Deedhauser, who says there is no reason to be concerned about him. Amelia is concerned about Deedhauser, despite the fact that they are also aware of his situation. Deedhauser moves closer to her and tells her, while holding her chin, that she must fulfill her role if she is thinking about him. He says this while making her feel uncomfortable. Amelia is left with a deep flush as a result of this, and she now feels an intense desire to completely seize Sheramine's head. Immediately following that, they go their separate ways. During this time, Lyat is engaged in combat with the human soldiers. In order to instill confidence in his troops, he tells them that they must demonstrate to them that once they have been wounded, they take on the characteristics of beasts. Having said that, there are more than just beasts in this location. They are taking down Kriegers using Nuen's technology. Monica is the one fighting the inhuman group. She cannot believe that they even have imitation Kriegers. They are getting full of themselves. Her colleague asks where the reinforcements and Kriegers are. She tells him that most of them were destroyed by the Dark Queen's attack. However, there should be someone that can move. If only they had some Kriegers, it would have been easy for them. Suddenly, one more Krieger is taken down. Monica notices it was taken down by Sheramine. Sheramine tells them that reinforcement will not be coming. He took them all out on his way here. Monica is scared of Sheramine while Lyat seems happy at this unexpected arrival. Lyat asks Sheramine where the Dark Queen is. He tells him the whole situation. However, Monica is still afraid that they are now over because Sheramine is here. She thinks that they are going to be violated by the inhumans. But to save her, Amelia and Amelia have arrived. Amelia says that she cannot believe that Monica was struggling this much with injured inhumans. However, Amelia tries to comfort her with kind words and a big hug. She tells her that from here on out, she can leave it to them. Monica is surprised and asks if those two are going to take on that huge army alone, and not to mention the envoy of the Holy Sword. She thinks this is impossible. Amelia tries to remind her that their order was only aimed toward the envoy of the Holy Sword, and she cannot make such selfish promises again. But Amelia says that she likes to think if they clean up a bunch of inhumans, The master will be happy. Both of them come face to face with Sheramine. Sheramine says that the two of them look lively. Amelia says it has been about a month since they last talked. At that time, he really thought that they would end up being great friends. She asks Sheramine if he can open up the way because they have a huge difference in number. However, Sheramine tells her that it was only for a short time, but these two were good to him, so he would feel ashamed to fight against them. In the first place, they cannot win against him. But Amelia says that is wrong because at that time they were just ordered to capture them all. Now Amelia is determined to put them down first. She takes out her spear, ready to attack Sheramine. Sheramine cannot match her speed. He can hardly follow her with his eyes. Keeping that in mind, Amelia says there is no way that he will be able to keep up with Amelia and her speed, so he should look at her. She uses her solo tech, Great Jaw, Dust E, at her technique, and runs to attack Sheramine with her spear. Sheramine is surprised and thinks she might be stronger than the Holy Sword's defense. He thought that his Bayou would end up in pieces. They are on a whole different tier from last time. Amelia advises him it will be dangerous to only look at her. Just then, Amelia attacks Sheramine from behind with her scythe. Fortunately, Sheramine has used the power of the Holy Sword as a launch pad to avert the path of her weapon. These are also actions beyond their expectations. Amelia thinks this man will definitely become a great obstacle to her master's plan, so she needs to end him here. She tells Amelia that actually, this would have ended there if she had not said anything. Sheramine says that the last time they fought, these two were holding back, but now it seems like they are in trouble. Sheramine advises Layat to walk away from this location and to continue moving forward. These do not appear to be adversaries that he can afford to be easy on. It is impossible for him to guarantee that the other inhumans will not become involved in this situation because he is going to use the Holy Sword to its fullest extent available. Layat acknowledges that he is aware of the situation and explains that he is able to walk away from the barrier device and help Fenel get to them. Amelia declares that she will not allow them to leave and then makes an attempt to attack. However, Sheramine manages to catch her off guard and then attacks, claiming that this is his line of defense. He is not so kind as to allow her the opportunity to deal with another person, and the two of them are in direct contact with one another. A statement made by Amelia indicates that their master has only instructed them to take his head, so it is acceptable in any case. There is no way for Monica to get ready to confront the inhumans. In any event, she believes that with the forces that they currently possess, they are unable to stop the inhumans. To a greater extent, it appears as though they are shielding them from the inhumans. While this is going on, Amelia launches an assault against Sheramine. Just as Sheramine is about to launch a counterattack, Amelia tells him to look at her and then launches a spear attack against Sheramine. Although Amelia's mobility and Amelia's force are completely superior to the Holy Sword, Sheramine believes that this is not the end of the story. It seems as though his movements are being read, which is another thing that is happening. Amelia asserts that he is mistaken if he believes that the humans have not taken any action in the 10 years that have passed since the conclusion of the most recent Great War. They were the ones who found themselves in possession of the Holy Sword. They have thoroughly investigated the Holy Sword's capabilities and conditions to ensure that it is an appropriate resource. As a result of this, in the beginning, rather than employing someone from another location, such as Sheramine, they attempted to create their own suitable individual. In the event that an inhuman suitable one appeared, measures were also being taken to create a suitable one with significant combat prowess so that they could recover the Holy Sword on their own. This plan was referred to as the Complete Suitable One-Shift Plan. The project, however, was ultimately unsuccessful because they were unable to recreate the conditions in a manner that was suitable for the project. Sheramine inquires as to whether or not the two of them happened to be chosen to be the suitables. Amelia, on the other hand, asserts that their master's willingness to take in the defective ones could be attributed to his extravagant generosity. As a result, she will fulfill his expectations and launch an assault on Sheramine. Amelia explains to him that what they meant by conducting exhaustive research on the Holy Sword is the same as what Sheramine said when he first used the Holy Sword. This sword is teaching him how to fight, giving the impression that Sheramine, who ought to have been a beginner, is able to fight like an unrivaled warrior. Therefore, if she stated that the Holy Sword's guidance is also something that they have thoroughly researched, then they would be able to participate in an anti-envoy of the Holy Sword program within a few days in the event that Sheramine betrayed them. As Sheramine contemplates the situation at hand, he comes to the realization that if Fenel had not been present, he would have been defeated by this point. This is Amelia's solo technique, which she calls the Great Jaw Dust Eater. The most powerful power of the Holy Sword is used by Sheramine in an attempt to launch a counterattack. Even the most powerful ability of the Holy Sword, when combined with the power of the Dark Queen Arcana, gives it a sickly color and becomes a blade that is tenacious. Assuming that it is possible to read it, it merely becomes a solid opening, and Sheramine is unable to defend herself against Amelia's assault. As a result of his posture being thrown off, he will be unable to stop it. Instead, he employs a different strategy and counterattacks with one of the Holy Sword's tendencies, which ultimately results in a significant explosion. The sound of the explosion is heard by both Liat and Gloria, and Liat informs Gloria that he has a request for her based on the explosion. As this is going on, Amelia is putting Sheramine under pressure and sitting on top of him, claiming that this was a very impressive checkmate move. Suddenly, she comes to the realization that she has not yet managed to get his name. She is informed by Sheramine that his name is Sheramine, and given that she is going to slaughter him at this very moment, what is the point of asking him his name? Amelia asks him with a glimmer of optimism in her eyes whether or not they are able to put an end to this situation. On the other hand, Amelia interrupts, and Amelia finds out that the master has given them the order to execute Sheramine. But to tell the truth, she had no desire to. To make things easier for themselves, humans of this world have managed to get him involved in their own conflict, which resulted in Sheramine turning against them. Therefore, it is necessary for them to put an end to his life. But she thinks this is a selfish act. Due to the fact that Sheramine is a pleasant person and they are roughly the same age, she contemplated the possibility of them becoming friends. Amelia continues, and Sheramine is taken aback by her statement that she had hoped to take him to a number of locations after he had recovered the Holy Sword. These are the kinds of locations that she frequently suggests to other people. They were able to visit a great number of locations, and she had hoped that they would be able to create a great number of memories together. Together with him, she had envisioned a wide range of scenarios. The realization dawns on Sheramine that this girl is distinct from other human beings. At least with regard to him, she does not harbor any animosity. Sheramine is curious as to whether or not she will pay attention to him. He requests that Deedhauser abandon the inhumans, whereupon the two of them will work together to eradicate the inhumans from the face of the earth. This will give them a second opportunity to become friends if she follows through with her plan. Amelia is questioned by Sheramine with the question of whether or not she is aware of the reasons why he chose to side with the inhumans. The reason for this is that the humans allowed the slaughter of people who had done nothing wrong, and she is instructing him to behave in the same manner. Sheramine asserts that he is unable to ever take part in something like this, even if it is for a brief moment, because it would involve trampling over people who live in the same world without showing any mercy. Amelia, on the other hand, is adamant that they have not committed any wrongdoing. Living in the same world, there is no possibility of that happening. It is impossible for her to finish her sentence because there are inhumans in this world. It is an attempt to educate her about the fact that it is classified. In any case, Amelia asserts that what they are doing is a form of justice, and consequently, Sheramine ought to accompany them in this endeavor. Among all the invasive species, the inhumans are the worst possible ones. In the end, it is not even close to being true that they consider him to be their comrade. They are only using Sheramine, and when they have no more use for him, it is obvious that they will kill him because that is the kind of people that are considered to be inhuman. She explains to Sheramine that he was only recently brought into this world, and that he has no prior knowledge of either this location or the inhumans who inhabit it. It is imperative that he pay attention to her because if things continue in this manner, she will be forced to take his life. In spite of this, Sheramine shares with her the details of the food that he consumed at the reptilian guy's stall. On account of the fact that the spices are really good in his food, he has been going there quite a bit. However, it turns out that Fenel is not very good with cuisine that is spicy. As a result of the fact that the reptilian's body temperature does not fluctuate very much, they consume very little food. The fact that they only consume one meal every 2 or 3 days is not exceptional in any way. If they do not make an effort to create food that is to the liking of other species, they will be completely unable to compete with other species. He inquired, and it was discovered that reptilians typically consume insects. At that moment, he came to the realization that each of them has a unique set of preferences. Because their bodies will change between summer coats and winter coats, there are also bestial tailors who could not really bother much with the concept of summer and winter clothing. This is because their bodies will change completely. The bestials that have only a small amount of fur, particularly the half-blood and mixed blood types, do not receive winter coats. However, they still feel compelled to change their fashion in order to enjoy the season by creating designs that are characteristic of both summer and winter. The material is very thin and airy, despite the fact that it will have the appearance of a coat. Additionally, there are subgenres of waterfall birdmen who favor taking baths rather than showers, and vice versa of the opposite. The experience of living with them has been nothing but a series of unexpected revelations for Sheramine. Due to the fact that he has never shared his life with inhumans, Amelia asserts that there is no way that he could possibly know any of that. To which Sheramine responds with a chuckle, "I am not originally from this world. A little more than a month ago, he was brought into this world, but in that month, he has fought and lived together with Fenel and other inhumans. He is just a newbie who was brought into this world. All the time, he has been keeping a close eye on them, but he has never had the opportunity to see the faces of those cruel individuals that she portrays them to be. As of this moment, he does not harbor any regrets regarding his decision to go on strike with Fenel. What about her? These inhumans who are standing right in front of her eyes and who are a part of the same world as she is. Despite this, she is completely unaware of what they consume, what they see, or what they are thinking. What gives her the confidence to say that the inhumans are a terrible people? Who is she? And what does she believe in? What is her sense of justice? Amelia is questioned by him about whether or not it is something that she has decided after witnessing it with her own eyes. It does not matter, according to her, whether she has witnessed it with her own eyes or not. She has been taught the truth in the appropriate manner. The only people who are considered to be a part of this world are humans, and that sums up adequately. Sheramine is faced with the question of why he does not believe her. What is the reason that he only supports the Dark Queen and the Inhumans, given that they are both from the human race? Indeed, the Dark Queen was responsible for some aspect of his brainwashing. Through the use of her technique, she secures Sheramine to the ground by inserting a nail into her hand. Sheramine is instructed to wait here by her. She is going to kill the Dark Queen, who has been deceiving him, and bring her head to him. Sheramine is instructed to wait here. It is her firm belief that Sheramine will regain his composure if she follows through with her plan. Even though Fenel and her arcana wings were on her side, Sheramine believes that he did not believe that she would be able to prevail against these two. In spite of the fact that he may still have some cards left to play, Fenel has confidence in him. He is unable to simply let those two go without making an effort. A moment later, he recalls that he still possesses the arcana that Fenel had given him, and he makes an attempt to use it. However, Amelia is able to easily avoid the attack. The fact that he was given an arcana wing was something that they were aware of, according to her. In spite of the fact that he does have a barrier, it was completely unexpected for him to take such a hostile approach in order to attempt to reclaim the sword. Amelia bids farewell to the arcana and makes an attempt to break it, but it turns out that the arcana wing was actually a decoy being deployed. According to the words, he has never engaged in this activity before. However, it appears that it does activate by his own volition and is significantly more effective than he had anticipated. The fact that he had more than one wing and that they could be layered was something that Amelia was aware of, she says. The fact that he is careless is the more problematic aspect. Not only did he have a single wing, but they were aware that wings can be layered at different levels. Instantaneously traversing around and behind her was made possible by his quick decision-making and reaction speed, which was most likely a result of the powers that the wing possessed. He was careful, but not careful enough. He is not just being used by the Holy Sword. He was careful all along. She had a misunderstanding about how dangerous this man was. Sheramine declares that he will defeat them right now and that he will not allow them to reach Fenel. He then takes out another arcana wing and declares that he will defeat them. When it comes to his ability to stand, Amelia claims that he is merely putting on a show for the sake of appearances. To begin, they are already familiar with his movements, so all he needs to do is be obedient. She has the ability to make the next time even more painful. Sheramine, on the other hand, claims that it is his final one. This arcana wing is the girl's power, but he also has authority over it. If Sheramine is able to use it in this manner, he will be able to incorporate the arcana wings into his sword. Amelia and Amelia are also thinking about what is going on in that other location. In order to extract the power of the arcana contained within the Holy Sword, he is in the process of using the wing as an intermediary. People are curious as to whether or not he is attempting to use an arcana without the dark green. In the past, Sheramine had inquired of the dark her reason for being restricted to using the arcana only 3 times per day. She runs out of magic points, MP, or whatever it is that she has. During their conversation, Fenel explains that it is related to one's life. As a result of the fact that it takes away one's life in order to use the absolute power that arcana possesses, it is forbidden to use arcana. In order to exert control over the arcana, they require an affinity that is 1 in a million to be engraved in the seal. The body she possesses a rather unique affinity with arcana. It is possible for her to avoid the danger that is associated with arcana if she only uses it 3 times. In essence, it is possible to go beyond limits and principles. However, doing so will unquestionably be putting one's life in jeopardy. Compared to what he had anticipated, Sheramine believes that it is 100 times more intense. In the process of getting ready to attack Sheramine, Amelia asks Sheramine if he believed that she would wait for him to strike first. A drill emerged from the ground just as Sheramine was about to launch an assault, and Lyat and Gloria were there to save her. Amelia is attacked by Gloria, who then causes her to become entangled in her tentacles, which resemble branches. As far as Sheramine is concerned, he has instructed them to proceed ahead of him. Given that Lyat and Sheramine are allies who share the same determination, it is only natural for him to provide Sheramine with his strength in the event that he finds himself in a precarious circumstance. Sheramine claims that he was aware that he was taking the right path with the inhuman individuals, and she employs the 4th forbidden technique, which is Radiance of Destruction Existence, in conjunction with his sword. Amelia and Amelia are terrified and come to the conclusion that they are unable to avoid this one. Great Jaw Dust Eater, Amelia's solo tech, is utilized to its full potential by Amelia. She remembers the time when she inquired about the holy sword that he was bringing over here and inquiring about its characteristics. After bringing them over, Deedhauser informed her that they will not know until they do so. He has only looked into whether or not their code of conduct is appropriate for the holy sword. Deedhauser has requested that his assistants get along with them due to the fact that they have been brought here overnight. He won't be able to tell the difference between going up and going down. In any case, Amelia was under the impression that the Holy Sword Boy might be similar to Amelia and herself in that they were both assigned works related to the Holy Sword, but she was unaware of the reason for this. On the other hand, Sheramine claims that he was unable to produce any output that could even remotely be considered an arcana, despite the fact that this match has been established anyway. Although he is grateful to Amelia for showing genuine concern for him, he has come to the conclusion that this is the best course of action for him from his own perspective. It is Sheramine's request that Lyat and the others move on. Amelia makes an effort to stop them and reiterates that she has not been defeated. It was difficult for her to get herself to stand up, but she vowed that she would not allow them to communicate with the master who had rescued them when they were being discarded. During this time, Fenel observes that the barrier has vanished, which is consistent with what Sheramine had anticipated. Suddenly, she becomes aware that Lyat is carrying Sheramine and that he is wearing clothes that have been shredded. After providing an explanation of what has transpired, Lyat asked Fenel if there was anyone else who could assist. Fenel reveals to them that Deedhauser was the sole perpetrator of the destruction of the entire submarine fleet as well as the human army, and that destruction was accomplished by Deedhauser alone. A decision had already been made by the time she arrived at this location. From a distance, she was only able to catch a glimpse of him. However, she was able to determine that he was armed with a firearm. However, Sheramine says that he shouldn't have been able to break the barrier. Fenel also says that is how it should be. However, that was really something one could have called a gun. She is carrying a bullet shell and says there may yet be something else to it. They cannot be impetuous, and nevertheless, it is the truth to say that they have him cornered. As of now, he is inside of Atrilia, and they should go as well to strike, and all of this will be settled inside Atrilia. There is a group of inhumans standing in front of the entrance to the interior of Atrilia. As far as Fenel is concerned, it appears to be a sturdy door. How are they going to get in? It is possible, according to Sheramine, for them to surrender to him and allow him to break the door with his holy sword. As far as Fenel is concerned, it appears that his body is in good condition, and she believed that it would be worthwhile to heal him. But she had no idea that he would use an arcana by himself. She was completely unprepared. She did not give him those wings under the condition that he would engage in such risky activities. Sheramine claimed that he would not have been successful in his battle against Amelia and Amelia if he had not done that. With that being said, Fenel asserts that the required toll from an arcana is significantly higher than the injuries he sustained in the battle. He had reached the point of no return and was on the verge of losing everything. Sheramine is of the opinion that he grossly underestimated the severity of the reaction of an arcana. He had no idea that it would be just as intense as it was. In any case, the girls argue that they have had enough of that. It is time for the conclusion. Known as the Super Heavy Strike Cannon, Atrilia, the super gigantic electromagnetic induction cannon railgun, is currently holding the entire continent hostage within its range of fire. The time has come to eliminate the threat that it poses and to take control of it through this conflict. She was concerned about what would occur when both land and sea forces were defeated, but Lyot laughed and said that he could hardly stand up. She was worried about what would happen. On the other hand, when Fenel and Sheramine charged down from the extremely high altitude, the humans had devised an intriguing method to create a barrier that separates them from one another. The level of stupidity displayed by them is incomparable to their own. Nevertheless, Sheramine claims that he was in a pretty precarious situation. The number of casualties that they have sustained is not insignificant, according to Gloria, but the majority of them are in a promising condition. According to Lyot, this is precisely the reason why he would like to get rid of this anxiety that is still present. With the amount of time that they have available, they would like to learn about any possible connections between the submarine fleet and the rendezvous that Lyot and his men will have. What transpired, even Fenel stated that it was Deedhauser's work that was responsible for it. Fenel reveals to him that Sheramine, after parting ways with him, immediately headed in the direction of the rendezvous. She was discovered by the human army, which is the submarine fleet, and it was discovered that she is not with Sheramine. Through the use of her arcana wings, she was able to travel through the ranks of the human soldiers. To put that into perspective, this is a different kind of regulation. In accordance with the tactical battle theory, they ought to take up the formation and use their numbers to effectively suppress her. In light of the fact that this situation has arisen, Fenel hid behind a wall that had been broken and used a smoke screen to make herself disappear. She was under the impression that her 7th arcana possessed a substantial amount of ammunition and was extremely efficient when used. However, in terms of its firepower, it was lacking as a finishing move. So it is not equipped to combat large forces. She had best move with caution. At first, it seemed like they were at a disadvantage, but in the end, the ones who are going to be victorious are the inhumans. Before the dark green assault, they have already sunk their submarine fleet, but most of the humans in them were a bunch of fishmen, amphibians that can breathe underwater. So it would seem like the humans have intended to mainly combat their coastal invasion with Atrilia's military provisions. Hence, there are not that many soldiers. And with the difference in forces, the enemy's morale is a mess. She thought that this battle is all but won, even if waiting for Sheramine and them to rendezvous. However, Deedhauser is watching his soldiers and thinks that it is miserable, and thinks if they are really the humans, the ones deserving of ruling this world. Fenel has also taken notice of Deedhauser at this point, and he believes that he is the biggest of the bunch. If they are successful in capturing his head, they will be regarded as war heroes for all time. Nevertheless, Atrilia's primary obstacle is that she is protecting him. What is that thing that he is holding? A gun? The soldiers are taken aback by what they see. When she begins firing at soldiers, Fenel is perplexed because he believes that it is impossible. A charge of bullets is being made. In the first place, she has never considered the possibility of a firearm that is capable of penetrating a barrier. Deedhauser, on the other hand, is of the opinion that there is a considerable number of them, and that his allies will also become entangled in this situation. On the other hand, nobody cares. The people will be told that their soldiers were all slaughtered by the inhumane and ruthless individuals, and he will use this information as propaganda to stoke the fires of vengeance. That he was able to eliminate all of them, including the humans, in a single shot is something that Fenel simply cannot believe. She is completely unable to comprehend what in the world that is. What has just taken place, and do you believe that it is in fact a firearm? Deedhauser is considering if Amelia and Amelia are performing their duties in an appropriate manner. The bullet is handed to Fenel by one of the fishermen, who then asks her to exact revenge on the other fisherman. To her knowledge, she has never seen anything like the intricately installed small model mechanism that was contained within the bullet that the individual fired. She ponders if man-made engineering advancements have progressed to that extent. Since the most recent major war occurred 10 years ago, they have not been provided with a widespread dissemination of information concerning these bullets. This is because the most recent war was far too abnormal. According to the info beam that has provided Fenel with the bullet, this bullet is not a clue because it is so far removed from what is considered normal. He is fine because Fenel was holding him. According to Fenel, however, there is still a possibility that they have a hand to play. Her question to Gloria is if she is counting on her to analyze this. Neon's statement that Atrilia's firepower is also a mystery on its own is something that Sheramine believes to be on the same page as its statement. He inquires of Fenel whether they have been stating that 1,000-man link, what Chamicalet may do that, or whether they meant a link_tech that they were referring to. The method, according to Fenel, is a way to produce a powerful technique by utilizing a number of different people. The output increases in direct proportion to the number of people who are involved in its construction. However, as the number of people involved increases, the level of danger and the amount of backlash also increases. Building a technology link with more than 10 people is considered to be risky, and building a technology link with more than 80 people is considered to be unpredictable. According to Sheramine, the solution appears to be located within this power plant. The large towers that make up the power source are the first thing that they notice as they enter the power plant. The only thing they are is technology. As far as Fenel is concerned, she would conclude that the cylinders that are sticking out are the sources of power. She is unable to comprehend the peculiar sensation that she is experiencing. Despite the fact that there is no one else present, it seems as though there are thousands of people right here. It is difficult to see clearly due to the cloud cover. Speculating about the contents of the cylinders, she is curious. As she looks into that cylinder, she is taken aback to see the head of an inhuman being. The heads of living inhumans are inserted into the mechanism while it is operating. This then is the source of the enormous power that Atrilia possesses. For the purpose of generating an enormous output, a mechanism consisting of 1,000 people was not sufficient. Every single time, the recoil was beyond comprehension. It is not possible for a single person to even form such a large link technology. In spite of the fact that Deedhauser comes to their rescue, they have been able to successfully activate this mechanism by incorporating the link technology as an integral part of the whole. As a result of the fact that there was nothing they could do to stop the recoil, everyone's brains were destroyed after only a few shots, and they all ended up dying. During the few hours that followed the firing of the cannon, they disposed of the used batteries, which were the heads of living inhumans, and replaced them with new batteries. This was done so that the cannon could become more stable. According to Deedhauser, they have successfully finished the automation process. Lude inquires as to if they were prisoners of war at the time of the most recent major war and the aftermath of it. Apparently, Sheramine was under the impression that they had successfully defeated the Imperial Coalition. According to Fenel, the human army also operates a few of their very own facilities that are used for internment camps. The inhumans are hovering around the cylinders in an inverted position, and it appears that they are connected to some kind of peculiar mechanism. Those inhumans who are going to be used in the cylinders are pleading with Deedhauser to spare them from inhumane treatment, whatever it is that they will ultimately put into the cylinder. According to Deedhauser, people ought to be aware of their position. It is not a good thing, the girls say, and she pulls out her arcana wings in order to save all of the extraterrestrial beings that are hanging from the cylinders. This is something that Lude admires and considers to be a brilliant move. In the meantime, Fenel takes a cylinder in her hand and requests that Sheramine observe this. On the opening of the capsule are blades that are exposed. It is intended to behead the individual once their head has been inserted into the device. According to Deedhauser, that was an excellent guess, and once they are severed, a wide variety of plugs are automatically attached, turning into a source of power and ensuring that one's life force is preserved to the greatest extent possible. Quite a few cylinders are displayed for them to see. Exactly like that, Fenel is unable to accept the fact that there are additional. Deedhauser further explains, afterwards, the bodies and heads are compressed by a technique and used as parts of the warheads for Atrilia. Deedhauser makes the observation, might as well add these power sources. Heads are totally automatically placed in their pillars' empty sockets. He then proceeds to throw one of the cylinders in their direction while stating, "This is a gift." Deedhauser says, "It will not last more than 3 hours unless it is connected to a pillar." Fenel and Sheramine are able to prevent the cylinder from breaking by catching it and preventing it from breaking down. Even though Fenel is charging her wings arcana in the direction of Deedhauser, he is able to destroy them with his gun only. Sheramine makes an attempt to assault him and declares that he will never forgive him, but Deedhauser simply provides the following response. It is best for him to not push himself because he is at his limit. Unexpectedly, Sheramine falls to the ground, but Gloria is there to prevent him from falling further. Fenel inquires about his well-being and inquires as to if Deedhauser has acted in any way towards him. Nevertheless, Sheramine claims that he is experiencing the feeling that the arcana's recoil is still having an effect on him, and that they have attempted to heal him on numerous occasions in the past. According to Gloria, their meeting with Fenel was cut short, but his body would quickly disintegrate once more during their time together. The price that Fenel must pay for using her 7th arcana wing as an intermediary is that she must endure such a miserable condition in order to perform an indirect activation. There is a high probability that his body will continue to shake until Sheramine passes away. As far as Sheramine is concerned, the consequences for breaking a taboo are extremely severe. However, according to Deedhauser, the fact that Amelia and Amelia were unsuccessful was a surprise. In spite of this, it would appear that they have accomplished their mission because Sheramine is no longer of any use. The target of his activation of Atrilia is the city of Lude, which is the fortress. It has been reported by Deedhauser that their primary stronghold, Lude, is being guarded by an arcana. Because of its location on the coast, even Atrilia is unable to destroy its foundation. In the event that someone were to remove the bedrock that surrounds it, what outcomes do she assume would occur? It is stated by Sheramine that he ignored each subsequent short after the first one in order to prevent him from becoming aware of this. On the other hand, according to Deedhauser, Lude and their barrier will eventually disappear into the depths of the oceans with all of their contents. It is possible for them to make an effort to stop him. Due to the fact that this location is designated for the equipment, he would prefer to avoid going at it here, that their inhuman stronghold Lude will vanish as a result of this, and that their Dark Queen will follow that, after which, after the disinfection of the remaining monsters in this world, they will be able to move on to the next step. Deedhauser suggests that they give him permission to put an end to their counterattack. Lyot says that there is no way in hell they will be letting him do as he pleases. He asks Fenel to let them pursue. Sheramine expresses his regret regarding the fact that he is of no use at such a crucial time. On the other hand, the girls claim that he has already done his fair share for them. And last but not least, she comes to the realization that an arcana will undoubtedly be able to deal with the recoil of another arcana. It has the ability to cancel any technique if she uses her primary arcana. Nevertheless, Sheramine informs her that she is unable to do that at this time because Deedhauser has already accounted for his Holy Sword battle style, and it would be foolish for them to lose their trump card, which is the final arcana. It is her recommendation that Fenel proceed. There are hundreds of thousands of inhumans in Lude, according to Sheramine, as well as Neon and a few other guys that he has taken the time to get to know. It is impossible for her to allow Deedhauser to achieve his goals. As soon as he is able to move again, he will immediately pursue her. It is sufficient to heal him with a regular technique, and he will be able to move again after all. Fenel expresses her need for Gloria to take care of Sheramine and informs her that she will be leaving Sheramine in her care. She approaches Lyot and requests that he lend her a few of his subordinates so that she can assign some of them to Sheramine's treatment and several others to serve as guards. Immediately after informing Sheramine that she will be waiting for him, she makes her way towards Deedhauser in order to prevent him from leaving. She tells Sheramine that once she has left, Gloria will tell him that she does not know how well a normal technique will be able to heal him if he realizes that his body is falling apart at an increasing rate. Sheramine makes it clear that they will cross that bridge when the time is right. Only 10 minutes is sufficient. He requests that Gloria simply make him so that he can move around. She was thinking that if she helped him move around a little bit on his own, she should be able to handle that situation in some way. With that being said, Sheramine is contemplating the possibility that Fenel will exhaust all of her arcana before the next time she is able to activate an arcana. He is almost certain that his body will not be able to withstand the effects of this fight. All of a sudden, they begin to hear some voices that are very small. Gloria is curious as to if the voices are coming from the children who are connected to the pillars. Tekshit Link is having the effect of amplifying all of their thoughts of resentment, which is a negative consequence. As a result of the fact that Sheramine is a human, they believe that all of these events are directed towards him. Then, however, they end up capturing Gloria. Meanwhile, Fenel and Lyot with their people have reached the rooftop. Deedhauser says they have to give time and shows them Lude on a screen. He says that he could sink it right now with Atrilia. Insistence around the humans were dealt with a serious blow. His mood will not be soothed with only that. He challenges the Dark Green to come so that he can violate and ravage her all while making her feel despair and powerless as she drowns in her blood. Deedhauser challenges the Dark Queen, declaring that she will bring her down to her knees and destroy her invasive species nest, Lude. He stands before her eyes, draws his guns, but Fenel angrily retorts that she will not let him have his way. She avoids Deedhauser's attempt to transform his gun into an Aegis and starts firing at the inhumans. Using many barriers, Fenel cannot interfere with his attacks. Lyot says they must do something about his barriers, or they will continue to face this one-sided onslaught. A bullet is fired at Lyot, but he fortunately dodges it. Lyot says all they need to do is rip the barriers to shreds. Deedhauser tries to scare him by saying the bullet travels at over 400 meters per second, but Lyot uses his anti-barrier technique at full output, finishing the move and attacking the barrier. As expected, he moves through all the barriers single-handedly. The Inhumans consider this their opening move. Fenel orders all the Inhumans to follow General Lyot. However, Deedhauser converts his gun into armas, transforming it into a heavy automatic machine gun and starts firing without hesitation. The Inhumans cannot withstand the absurd bullet storm. Lyot and his daughter hide behind an aircraft to dodge the bullets. Deedhauser changes his gun again, this time transforming it into Gisel, a big long gun, and fires through the aircraft, attacking Leon. Lyot captures his daughter in his arms, kneeling in front of Deedhauser. Deedhauser says he has heard that the gun changes form and attributes, but this is beyond his comprehension. He points the gun at the head of Lyot, leader of the Inhuman elite, boasting the most prowess even among the elite. Deedhauser says that standing at the forefront of the previous Great War, he'd heard that Lyot was feared by the humans. After the Great War with his guerrilla tactics, he seems not all that formidable. Suddenly, Fenel intervenes and Deedhauser is now face to face with Fenel. Fenel says she will defeat him and strengthen her body, but Deedhauser points his gun towards her and says what an amusing joke this is, starting to fire at Fenel. Fenel thinks that because her childhood friend Mune had a hobby of collecting antique guns, she also has some knowledge of guns. However, she has never heard of a gun this abnormal, one that can transform. Not only is this transforming gun far from normal, but as she watches, she cannot spot the release of bullet shells or smoke. Fenel thinks she should approach this as if the generation and firing of the bullets are a result of a technique or techniques. She is sure that after Gloria's analysis is complete, they will understand all of that to a certain degree. Whatever the answer is, it is apparent that they have never seen or heard of such a gun or technique before, almost as if his gun is an object from another world. Deedhauser says that is not necessarily incorrect, but Fenel says she has no interest in inquiring deeper about that. Fenel thinks she is at a disadvantage engaging in a shootout, so she will dive into his blind spot. However, she is unsuccessful, and Deedhauser points his gun at her head. She has also pointed her arcana at Deedhauser. Deedhauser continuously fires bullets at Fenel, who successfully dodges them. Lyot says that even against a fully unleashed Fenel, Deedhauser is evenly matched. However, Fenel is thinking that these are not the movements of a pencil pusher. She is surprised by the sharpness of his movements. They are almost the same as the envoy of the Holy Sword. Deedhauser transforms his gun into Krennis, and a lot of guns circle around him. He great cannot believe that the guns split. Deedhauser continuously fires at Fenel, breaking all her wings. Without wings, it is close quarters combat. Deedhauser says that she did not know when to give up and transforms his gun again to its normal state and fires at Fenel. She is on the ground. Deedhauser puts his foot on her head and says it is amusing that the most fitting place for invasive species is to grovel on the ground like this. Lyot tries to attack Deedhauser, but Deedhauser says it is pointless because they have lost, and all they need to do now is burn this sight into their eyes, the sight of their nest sinking. Atrilia's preparations are complete, and it is ready to fire. Fenel tries to use her last arcana wings, thinking that she had a trump card hidden away, but it is futile. Deedhauser crushes the wings using his gun. The beast cannot believe this, and the technique that was put into the wings is crushed just like that. Soon after, Atrilia discharges fire. All the Inhumans are in disbelief. Fenel asks for forgiveness from her people. Fenel says that she has to leave the rest to Sheramine. Sheramine appears out of nowhere with his holy sword. Fenel orders him to stop Atrilia. Sheramine uses his technique, Tenacious Blade, to disturb and change the direction of Artrilia's attack as it fires the cannon. Mune and other people at Cold Lude notice that Artrilia's bullet is coming their way. However, it misses the Cold Lude base and the city is safe now. Fenel gets a little emotional and tells Sheramine that he kept her waiting. Sheramine admits it took him a bit. He tells Fenel that it surprised him that as he was on his way to the roof here, the ceiling became almost see-through, and then he saw Fenel caught up in a big pinch. Fenel tells him that was the application of a sonar technique which made it look see-through. She also heard him making his way up here after being healed. Sheramine notices that Fenel's wings are totally shredded. He says that Deedhauser was doing whatever he wanted while he was down. Deedhauser gets up and says that he can see her trump card was intended for that purpose from the very start. Nevertheless, Sheramine should not have been in a condition to be healed by a normal restoration technique due to the recoil of using an arcana. Also, he sees no signs of Sheramine being healed by an arcana. He thinks it is puzzling and unexpected. That was a no-holds-barred tenacious blade. Deedhauser says he gets that it was not a direct hit thanks to the floor acting as a dampener. But how can he be standing on his own feet? He takes off his clothes, revealing a metallic suit underneath. Deedhauser tells them that this is a specially made exoskeleton suit. It increases physical abilities and deploys barriers automatically to defend the user as needed. The nanotransformed suit will cover his whole body, and the nanomachines in his blood link up to cure his injuries in a brief span of time. But even then, that attack was just a close call for him. He does not think he will fall so easily. Deedhauser says he is unlike Amelia or any other human who has no aptitude for techniques, so he must at least have this much. Fenel says that she does not understand any of the terms Deedhauser has used. Sheramine says he expected that they have never heard of these things and tells Fenel that it is technology from his world, but his world has yet to actualize these things. He asks Deedhauser if he is really from this world. Deedhauser says indeed he is a human, a legitimate human of this world, just like Sheramine. He says that Sheramine's attack just now seems to have broken Atrilia's attitude control system. It can no longer aim at their nest, and repairs will take some time, so he has decided to make a change of plans. Even this should have been done from the beginning, slaughtering all of them and putting their heads on public display. Then he can sink the nest of the invasive species called Lude. Sheramine tells Deedhauser to try his luck. Now that he and Fenel are together, they are invincible, and this is the time to finish this. Fenel tells Sheramine that all of his 7th arcana wings have been destroyed by Deedhauser. She will not be able to lend him much support. Sheramine reminds her that she still has the 3rd arcana card, her final one for the day. Fenel says he is absolutely correct and asks Sheramine to hold her hand so they can activate her 7th arcana together once again. However, Sheramine shows Fenel the bullet that has been analyzed by Gloria and explains that because they have that, Fenel should not waste her last arcana like that. To reliably defeat Deedhauser, they will need her for the winning blow. His biggest threat is his gun. It transforms and can pierce through the barrier. Her techniques are the only things that can tear through the barrier. As long as she has full comprehension of the bullet, even the smallest techniques can be negated by her 3rd arcana, vast imperative nullification unbiased eyes. The barrier-bursting gun will be nothing more than a toy. Their victory is guaranteed, but when Fenel reads the analysis, she realizes that all of these techniques are unknown to her. Her 3rd arcana activates by incorporating the target's techniques into it, but as these are unknown techniques, she cannot activate her 3rd arcana. Sheramine asks if Gloria's analysis is not that omnipotent. Fenel tells him that all analysis can do is discern the mechanism and technique model number. She has a perfect grasp of all the techniques. Therefore, she usually has no problem. However, if she does not know the technique analysis, she cannot incorporate it into her arcana. Sheramine thinks it is something like putting the virus body into the vaccine. Sheramine asks if Fenel herself is able to analyze this bullet, then she will be able to activate her 3rd arcana. But the amount of time it will take is the problem. So Sheramine decides to challenge Deedhauser. However, Fenel stops him because he is afflicted by the arcana's recoil and his body is not strong enough. But Sheramine asks her to leave the situation to him. He will take him out before she finishes her analysis. Facing Deedhauser, he says that he is surprisingly kind enough to consciously wait for them. However, Sheramine says it is not something that needs thanks. He wanted some time to completely heal his wounds from Sheramine's attack. Deedhauser says it would seem like the two have something planned. However, it is of no use. The answer they have reached will only lead to his victory. However, Sheramine is ready to attack him again with his tenacious blade disturb. Deedhauser asks if he really thinks that somewhat big attack would actually hit. The voice says that was just to block his vision a little. Sheramine cannot believe that he dodged it so easily. He guesses he has also undergone the anti-holy sword program. Deedhauser appreciates that Sheramine can guard against a barrage of bullets and buckshots from his own blind spot. That is impressive. Sheramine realizes that Deedhauser not only has the anti-holy sword, but he also feels like this guy is also from the shortest distance he can against him. Sheramine thinks just as he thought. Deedhauser is exactly like him. In the meantime, Deedhauser explains to Sheramine that the formation of an anti-holy sword program indicates that they have abstracted and optimized the offense program from the holy sword guidance, and then transplanted that offense program within themselves. That is to say, Sheramine and Deedhauser are the only ones who possess the ultimate spear, and he is the only one who possesses the shield that can protect him from that spear. After gaining an understanding of who has the upper hand in this match, Sheramine poses the question, if the Holy Sword was not humanity's trump card, then why did they bother summoning him from something that existed in another universe? According to Deedhauser, the reason for this is that the Holy Sword is their trump card. This is not because of its optimized offense or tenacious blade disturb, rather it is because it is the key to truly salvage and correct this world. It is for this reason that the human race is determined to find the Holy Sword. It has come as a complete surprise to Sheramine to learn all of this information. On the other hand, Deedhauser positions his gun in the direction of Sheramine and declares that they have had enough of talking. He says that it is a checkmate move and then transforms his gun into a flashing echo shell. Everyone who is not a human, including Fenel, is concerned about Sheramine. Deedhauser, on the other hand, makes a mocking statement about how it hurts his heart to have brought Sheramine into this world for his own selfish reasons, and then to have to end it in this manner. Sheramine urges him to be quiet and refrain from babbling about things that he did not actually believe in his own mind. After telling Sheramine that it is his fault for siding with the invasive species, Deedhauser then begins to shoot Sheramine in the head. The inhumans are all drowning in hopelessness. Sheramine, on the other hand, is continuing her attempt to assault Deedhauser. In the meantime, Sheramine is continuing to exert every ounce of strength that he possesses in an effort to launch an assault on Deedhauser. Asked why he is attempting to attack as if he has already won, Deedhauser wonders. It comes as a surprise to Deedhauser that Sheramine's assault possesses such a powerful force. The world explains to him that if he was curious about how he could move after hearing the words of the arcana's consequences, that is because it is healed, and it also demonstrates to him that the fresh bullet wound is healing very quickly. Gloria claims that she was concerned for a brief moment when she was attacked by all of the inhuman heads at the Atrilia power plant. However, the children contained within those capsules were aware that Sheramine is a friend, and their objective was to make use of Gloria's ability to create a link technology in order to defeat Deedhauser, the human that they detested. Sheramine was granted an extraordinary capacity for recuperation as a result of Artrilia's utilization of its 1,000+ man link technology, which effectively rendered him immortal. She is skeptical that the effect will dissipate for approximately one full day. Despite the fact that the ones inside the capsules were the ones who took the brunt of the recoil, the damage caused by the recoil is extremely significant, and those who were inside the capsules are no longer alive. 13 years ago, Gloria believed that she had made the right decision when she decided to leave the Dryad's will that belonged to the Arboranian. On the other hand, the residents of the village were not pleased with the situation. She was unable to comprehend the reasons why everyone was so opposed to it. However, she has had the opportunity to experience a great deal of things. In addition to having made friends and traveling the world, she has also experienced a number of other exciting things that are best kept a secret from everyone in the village. A Dryad's lifespan can span hundreds of years. Being confined to the village for the entirety of the time is such a waste of time. Nevertheless, Gloria is pondering whether or not she ought to go back to the village for a while. Moreover, she has brought a great deal of mementos with her. In spite of the fact that they were against her leaving the village, she is certain that they will be content with her decision. Additionally, at that precise moment, she was informed of the breaking news that the humans had laid siege to the entirety of the country that was inhabited by Arboranians. While this was going on, the human emperor declared war on every other race in the world. Gloria could not believe what she was hearing and hurried back to her village, but she was unable to locate anything or anyone by the time she arrived. Through the use of her vision sync ability, she arrived at the conclusion that Deedhauser had eradicated each and every Arboranian. As far as the inhumans are concerned, he stated that the Dryad possesses the most peculiar and unique abilities. The evidence presented by Deedhauser demonstrated that they would have been a significant source of trouble during the upcoming war. However, due to the fact that they detested conflict and self-segregation, it was relatively easy to eradicate them. According to him, this will be remembered as the fire that ignited the beginning of the destruction of the inhumans. Gloria is now aware of the person who is responsible for all of this. To return to the present day, Gloria is currently relying on Sheramine and Fenel to exact their vengeance on everyone. In the meantime, the voice reveals that his body is in the process of disintegrating as a result of the arcana's reaction, but at the same time, he is simultaneously recuperating. Deedhauser is informed by him that if he possesses an ultimate spear and shield, then he possesses an ultimate spear and an infinite life that has been bestowed upon him by everyone. Sheramine is the target of Deedhauser's assault, which consists of him firing on him continuously. The fight is being watched by Lude and a number of other inhumans. It is easy to create time, according to Lude, because the life force is infinite. It has been suggested by another inhuman that Sheramine might even be able to eliminate him. However, Fenel asserts that this does not alter the fact that his actions are being observed and analyzed. However, Sheramine believes that even if he were to negate his gun with Fenel's arcana, he might not even have a chance to hit the target. It is just one more obstacle that needs to be conquered. Additionally, in addition to Fenel's analysis, he is currently tasked with discovering a means by which he can defeat Deedhauser's anti-holy sword program. It is difficult for him to deal with this situation because he is only a student, and the primary reason he is able to fight is because of the guidance provided by the holy sword. As he becomes aware of the fact that a gun can use anti-holy sword guidance, he begins to wonder if it is compatible with anything. This means that Sheramine employs a move that is not the most effective choice for the holy sword. It has also been brought to Deedhauser's attention that Sheramine is carrying out a different action because he is going to counter any optimal route. Sheramine decides that this presents an opportunity and launches an assault on Deedhauser. Deedhauser, on the other hand, claims that he can only describe that as imprudent. Following the acquisition of a second sword, Sheramine is now employing a two-sword style of combat. The sword in question belongs to Lude. After being hit, he picked up the one that Lude had dropped and picked it up. Sheramine has been under the impression that the guidance and optimal offense provided by the holy sword are not supported by the holy sword itself. As a result, the optimization is functioning in this manner with the gun. No matter how many weapons a person is holding, it will provide all of the optimal actions that can be taken in terms of fighting. As a result of this, Deedhauser's anti-holy sword program is ineffective against his attacks that originate from anything other than the holy sword itself. As a result of his frustration, Deedhauser uses his gun to transform into Ashtian. Sheramine, however, attacks him and declares that it is too late to do anything about it. She then delivers the finishing blow, but Deedhauser has disappeared through a dark space. After that, he goes into Ashtian's twin gun mode. According to Deedhauser, it is the trump card that leads to the creation of portal wormholes. It was completely unexpected to him that he would be required to make use of it. Fenel comes to the realization that Deedhauser was able to avoid harm while utilizing this as her fourth arcana back then. In his conversation with Sheramine, Deedhauser explains that he continues to provide him with all of that, and that he is still making progress in his recovery. What an annoying ability to recover from damage. Nevertheless, he transforms his weapon into Mjolnir and launches an assault on Sheramine. A bullet that is capable of continuously delivering high-voltage shocks is what it is. Sheramine will not be able to move, according to Deedhauser's assumption. However, this is not the only reason. After that, he employs a hollow-point firebomb bullet that contains a sedative within its bullet. As Sheramine is eating his multi-course meal of pain, he inquires about its flavor. Deedhauser then announces to Sheramine that he is going to subject him to the greatest amount of pain that is humanly possible, and that he will render him completely useless. The time required for this is not even 10 minutes. It is unclear whether Fenel is concerned about Sheramine because she has not yet completed the analysis. Her heart longs for Nun's workshop to be in this location. When Leona brings Lude and Fenel's attention to the aircraft, they respond positively. On the other hand, Deedhauser is continuously torturing Sheramine, and he claims that there are times when they have to choose the method of death that is the most excruciating. With the help of this living bullet, which is composed of nanomachines, Sheramine will experience what it is like to be consumed from the inside out. After that, he inquires of Sheramine what kind of pain he seeks to experience next. As Sheramine finally gives up, he expresses his regret to everyone and says that he can no longer take this. However, Lude and Shawansika have managed to lift the aircraft and are currently attempting to throw it at Deedhauser. Deedhauser, on the other hand, declares that they are squandering his time and that this will only make Sheramine's suffering worse. Unbeknownst to him is the fact that Fenel is concealing himself within the light-armed weapon. Deedhauser in order to get to Sheramine. Through the connection that exists between Noon's workshop and the Deedhauser, Leona, and Noon are able to communicate with one another. The analysis has already been finished by her, and with this analysis, they are able to disprove Deedhauser's gun. Deedhauser, on the other hand, has completely changed his weapon into a Gisel. Nevertheless, Fenel has arrived to save Sheramine before he can launch his assault. Sheramine tells Deedhauser that he has come back from the brink of collapse because he allowed Fenel and other people to draw his attention for an excessive amount of time. This is the reason that he has come back from the brink, and now Deedhauser will also have the opportunity to experience his strength. Using their combined abilities, Sheramine and Fenel cast the third technique that is prohibited, which is called Unbiased Eyes. A portion of Deedhauser's gun's techniques have been rendered ineffective, and as a result, his weapon is no longer a danger. Despite the fact that they are prepared to settle this dispute, Deedhauser believes that they are fools because if they negate his anti-barrier technique, then his regular ammunition will be without use. On the other hand, he still possesses a unique bullet that is capable of firing a technique known as chronolas. With this move, which allows him to shoot a technique with the firepower to erase an opponent along with their barrier, he is able to eliminate the Dark Queen in a single shot at the very least. He is certain that their self-assurance, which is a direct result of their ability to discredit his firearms, will prevent them from even attempting to avoid his assault. On the other hand, Deedhauser asserts that Fenel's faith in her arcana will ultimately lead to her demise. However, Fenel claims that she has already demonstrated that she is aware of the techniques that his gun is capable of firing. By observing the techniques that his guns use to function, she was able to form a suspicion regarding this possibility. Her belief in the correctness of that hypothesis was strengthened by the fact that she observed portals and barriers in addition to the aforementioned evidence. She states that the root of his gun's threat was what they were looking for in their analysis, and that would be the form and attribute of the multi-challenging unknown technique. She says that they were looking for this underlying threat. She claims that his gun and bullets are no longer aware of what form they should be holding because she has used her arcana to negate or delete it. Despite the fact that Deedhauser finds this to be absurd, Sheramine assaults him. Deedhauser is under the impression that Sheramine does not possess any other weapons, which means that he was able to avoid it by relying on the counter program. Sheramine, however, attacks Deedhauser's exoskeleton, which causes it to stop functioning and causes a fatal wound that is beyond the capability of nanomachines to repair. As a result, Deedhauser is unable to fight back. At this moment, he is genuflecting in front of Sheramine. When Sheramine declares that it is over, all of the inhumans begin to chant for Deedhauser to be killed. Fenel, on the other hand, has stated that they will not be taking his life anymore. For the sake of their greatest benefit, she requests that Deedhauser provide them with information regarding the technology, his plans, and the means by which they can return Sheramine to the world in which he was born. An additional statement made by Sheramine is that he has a question for Deedhauser. When he said that the two of them are the same, he inquires about the meaning of what he meant by that statement. Instead of providing answers to the questions, Deedhauser activates the code that causes the nanomachine to destroy itself completely. As far as he is concerned, he would pass away before allowing them to use even a single hair of his. As far as he is concerned, he has lived his entire life for humanity, and he will die for humanity and the real world. Deedhauser then engages in a self-destructive act in front of them all. From a vantage point on the ground, Amelia, and Monica enjoy watching this scene. Amelia intervenes and tells Amelia that they are unable to do anything about this situation. She then orders all the troops to withdraw from the area. Amelia becomes very angry. The gathering of every transport aircraft that is operational is her order. This was the Master's order, which was a 1 in a million potential outcome. The Inhumans observe a large number of aviation vehicles taking off. They are instructed by Fenel to disregard the aircraft because they do not have the military resources necessary to engage in the conflict. On the other hand, every single human being is successfully fleeing, which is a victory for the Inhumans. In the blink of an eye, the news is disseminated to every single person on the planet. It has been reaffirmed to the Inhumans all over the world that their Dark Queen has returned into existence. Humans, on the other hand, are in a state of disbelief about the situation. The Transcendents on par with the Holy Sword, who are the envoys of the sacred treasures, have been called to the court of the human Emperor Gustav. The celebration of the Inhumans' victory takes place the day after they have successfully attacked Atrilia. Sheramine says that the Inhumans are extremely enthusiastic about their parties. In response to Sheramine's inquiry about the state of his body, Fenel explains that it is preferable to avoid suffocating oneself with issues that are not necessary. Sheramine informs her that he is in good health, the arcana's backlash has completely disappeared, and Fenel is solely responsible for this remarkable development. She employed her first forbidden arcana, which was Reverse Days, which was a technique of the highest possible restoration class. To be more specific, it is not a restoration, rather it is a class that is more similar to a time manipulation class, because whatever it does is to return living beings to a state that existed at most 72 hours ago. To put it succinctly, so long as a person is still breathing and was in good condition 72 hours ago, even if he has lost half of his body, he will revert back to his previous state and feel as if he were a gentleman in space. All of the individuals who had sustained injuries during the battle for Atrilia have now been completely healed, and they are now in a state of perfect health to take pleasure in this banquet. Sheramine, on the other hand, claims that it is quite challenging to maintain sobriety while interacting with a large group of drunks. The question of why Sheramine does not drink is posed by Fenel. From his perspective, he is still too young to consume alcohol. Sheramine is the recipient of her apology for allowing Deedhauser to treat him in such a manner. Nevertheless, she claims that it was their opportunity to learn how to bring Sheramine back to his own world, complete with all of its components. Sheramine, on the other hand, asserts that it does not matter what the case is because he was not going to jump out of this situation. Despite the fact that he is certain that there are other humans who are aware of the path, he will remain by Fenel's side until the very end. Nune, on the other hand, asserts that they have completed their internal investigation. There is a great deal of sophisticated technology in this area, which is very appealing. By making the decision to rush all the way here from Lude, she made the right choice. However, due to the fact that there are a number of locks on the control system that Sheramine broke, it will take her approximately 1 week to successfully repair it. All they need to do is leave it up to her. Although they are unable to turn the cannon so that it faces the human side, the rounds are so insane that they could send them around the world once if they so desired. This is because the cannon's range extends beyond this continent. On the other hand, she asks Fenel whether or not they are actually going to make use of this thing, putting all of this together. Due to the fact that this weapon is too demonic, Fenel claims that she is unable to bring herself to feel strong enough to use it. On the other hand, if it were not used, it would result in even more bloodshed. Putting the cart before the horse would be the correct approach. When it comes to the use of Atrilia, she will make a decision for herself regarding the event. Fenel is of the opinion that the mere possession of this weapon constitutes a significant danger to the human race. She is of the opinion that it can also be utilized as a negotiation tool in order to bring an end to this war. Instead, that will be the primary function that they will serve for this location. Fenel is questioned by Leona about whether or not they intend to eradicate the human presence. According to Fenel, their fight back is a fight to reclaim what they have lost during the previous Great War, which includes their freedom, their homeland, and their dignity. Additionally, they want to bring their world back to how it was before the previous Great War. She is certain that re-establishing a relationship with humans will be difficult to accomplish this time around. After hearing this, Leona is overjoyed because she is a hybrid of human and animal. Even though they have caused her to go through hell on more than one occasion, she still has feelings for them. Sheramine, on the other hand, has an abrupt realization that this is the very first time he has ever seen Leona wearing a smile. According to Leona, she was on the verge of forgetting how to smile. At the end of the day, she would be beaten up by both humans and inhumans if she ever smiled while she was being held in the internment camp. In an effort to instill some self-assurance in her, Sheramine tells her that from this point forward, she is free to laugh and smile as much as she pleases. We will all work together to create a world in which she can laugh as much as she pleases. Sheramine, on the other hand, stated that he is not concerned as long as he is with Fenel. This was in response to Fenel's mocking statement that he is increasing the difficulty of their accomplishment. Following a night of heady partying, everyone is intoxicated and asleep when morning arrives. Nune wishes Sheramine a pleasant morning as soon as he comes to consciousness. She claims that everyone is sound asleep after partying until the wee hours of the morning. His memory is also completely blank, but there are traces of going pretty hard because there was a drink that was non-alcoholic but would still get you intoxicated. Sheramine claims that she also got pretty wild herself. His memory is also completely blank. It has been brought to Sheramine's attention that Atrilia is equipped with a bath, and he has also been informed that the establishment also features a mess hall. According to his perspective, This location is more of a fortress than it is a cannon emplacement. Sheramine, on the other hand, observes that Fenel is already using the bathroom, and she is the one who is there. Due to the fact that it was the only location that was illuminated, Sheramine has just been wandering in. On the other hand, this is the bathroom for women. In addition to expressing her regret, Sheramine suggests that Fenel should simply forget that he was present. However, she intervenes and tells Sheramine that it is time for the two of them to be together. Sheramine comes to the realization that she has also been drinking in this location. It is time for Fenel and Sheramine to form a bond, and she says this while holding Sheramine in her arms. Given that she was just thinking about Sheramine, it is reasonable to assume that this is also a result of fate. Through the back, she gives Sheramine a hug. Sheramine expresses her regret for being so thin and advises her not to compare him to those monsters with a lot of muscle. Nevertheless, Fenel asserts that this is not the thought that she is considering. When she was thinking about how happy she was thinking about the time when that voice had saved all of them. She confronts Sheramine with the question of why he chose to save them in a world which was unfamiliar to him, even going so far as to turn his back on the people who had summoned him. The response that Sheramine gives is straightforward. See it for yourself and always be just. He explains to her that the person he looked up to when he was a child was the one who taught him that, and he also tells Fenel that she and that girl have the impression that they are the same for a brief moment. Fenel, on the other hand, becomes enraged and inquires of Sheramine whether or not she is merely that little girl's replacement. In her attempt to explain it, Sheramine explains that it was just her initial motivation. In light of the fact that war is not something that can be casually continued with such a fleeting reason, Fenel asserts that she is aware of it. Despite the fact that she has seen it with her own eyes, she still opted to take their hands. A statement made by Fenel indicates that his back is the only one that she can rely on. In the event that she is able to do so, Sheramine considers it a privilege for him. The question that he poses to Fenel is how she came to the conclusion that she should serve as the Dark Queen of the Inhumans. Fenel chuckles and explains that the humans were the ones who initially referred to her as the Dark Queen. Sheramine is informed by her that, in comparison to his, her reason was not one that was deserving of praise. Because of the fact that the humans have taken her dearest sister, hers was almost a personal growth experience. Although Sheramine was interested in learning more information, Fenel has become unconscious as a result of the excessive amount of alcohol she has consumed. Lyot walks into the bathroom as Sheramine is holding Fenel. Upon seeing the scene that is unfolding in front of him, Lyot inquires of Sheramine whether or not they have spent some time together bonding. On the other hand, Sheramine makes an effort to explain that he is completely wrong. Nevertheless, the misunderstanding is resolved in a short amount of time. However, Fenel was in a frenzy for a considerable amount of time. Sheramine and an inhuman are playing cards. The inhuman wagers a book that was among the spoils of the war from Atrilia. He has borrowed it from one of the humans' bags. This is a human salacious book, and in exchange, Sheramine will have to take a good research picture of Fenel. He must confirm that it is the adult version of Fenel, which causes Sheramine to experience a sense of dread. Nevertheless, as the young boy investigates the picture book, he comes to the realization that despite the fact that it is a human creation, it also contains elements that are not human. Sheramine is aware that they used to coexist, and as a result, he is curious about whether or not there is still a market for this particular product. At the very least, this is a way that both parties can get along. A few days after the siege on Atrilia, this location served as a temporary base for the Inhumans, and they have begun gathering supplies here. In preparation for Atrilia's role as their second base after Lude, they are making sure that it has the appropriate appearance. On the other hand, Nune made a poor decision when he allowed Leona to perform maintenance on the dye nozzle on her own. In the end, Sheramine was the one who had to save her, and he inquired of Nune as to why she had allowed him to come so close to death by allowing Leona to try to figure things out. As a result of Nune taking Leona on as her apprentice and the fact that Leona was living in the internment camp when she was a child, she is limited in her ability to read and write. As a result, Nune believed that Leona should pursue a profession. Nune is holding out hope that she will not be responsible for any further strange occurrences. On the other hand, Nune notices that both Sheramine and Leona appeared to be in a state of disarray, and he advises them to take a bath and clean themselves up by themselves. However, they should not go together this time. On the other hand, Leona clarifies that she is not bothered by the fact that she is accustomed to bathing alongside her father. When it comes to the bath, Sheramine recalls a particular incident that occurred when he and Fenel took a bath along with each other. After becoming enraged, Fenel confronts Sheramine and inquires about his thoughts. Sheramine, on the other hand, makes an effort to demonstrate that he is merely interested in her older sister. He asks Fenel if she can provide him with additional information about herself. Fenel, on the other hand, is completely taken aback by this information and inquires of Sheramine where he obtained it. However, she responds that she does not mind sharing it with him. Her question to Sheramine is, "Why do you want to know about her?" After the assault on Atrilia, Sheramine reveals to her that he has been curious about something ever since those events. He is considering what Amelia has shared with him regarding the Inhumans, and despite the fact that he had planned to continue looking with his own eyes and select the parts that he considers to be just, he is unable to bring himself to believe that Amelia was lying to him. In light of this, he explains to Fenel that he is someone who arrived in this world from another world, and as a result, it would not be unusual for him to have forgotten or overlooked something. Despite the fact that he is always by Fenel's side, for instance, he was unaware that she had a sister, and there are still an excessive number of things that he is unaware of. Consequently, he requests that Fenel discuss her older sister with him. While Fenel is considering where to start, he comes to the conclusion that he should begin before the previous Great War. For example, among the Inhumans, there was a family known as the Bernstein family that was particularly powerful and noble. Her own older sister, Lilienthal Bernstein, became the 67th head of the family on that particular occasion. When Sheramine hears this, she is taken aback and inquires to Fenel whether or not this indicates that she is a member of the upper society. The way that Fenel looks at her does not change the fact that she is the very embodiment of what it means to be one. The story is continued by her continued. Her sister was a young lady who possessed two qualities that were equally important to her. She was a childlike person who also possessed the strength to carry out her responsibilities. Both Fenel and she would play together, pull pranks on each other, and get reprimanded together. She taught Fenel many things. In addition to that, she penned a novel in which she played the main character. Even though Sheramine is unable to get a good sense of who she was, it appears that Fenel placed a great deal of importance on her actions. In a conversation with Sheramine, Fenel explains that remembering about her only makes her feel more isolated. Sheramine would like to know how she came to be dead. Noon is able to provide him with more information than she can at this point, according to Fenel. Sheramine is informed by Noon that, as far as he is aware, humans and inhumans coexisted prior to the conclusion of the Great War. Since both of Lily's parents passed away at a young age, she was able to inherit her position. Approximately at that time, the conflict between the humans and the inhumans came to the surface. It was the only option available to Lily, given her position, and she had no choice but to take charge of the inhumane military operations. On the other hand, Fenel is of the opinion that Lily did not intend to involve her in such a complicated circumstance. The time that she served her sentence with her was somewhere around that time. During that time period, Noon's family, which had been providing assistance to Fenel's family for several generations, began serving as Lily's right hand. Because of this, Noon has a better understanding of what took place within this time frame. Taking things back to the beginning, when the level of tension between humans and inhumans was at its highest point, and there was no longer any way to achieve peace, Lily and the other inhumans came to the realization that they ought to investigate the possibility of locating the person who was responsible for perpetrating this situation. An accident involving a train claimed Lily's life while they were conducting their investigation. A desire for vengeance engulfed the Inhumans, and they became consumed by it. Soon after the humans had suffered the loss of Lily, they launched an assault on the Arboranian village and declared war on all others who were not human. That marked the beginning of the final major war. Despite this, Noon is of the firm belief that Lily did not intend for Fenel to become involved in this conflict whatsoever. To this day, she continues to hold the belief that if Lily were still alive, the Great War would not have taken place, or at the very least, the terms between humans and inhumans would not be as severe as they are today. Noon is questioned by Sheramine regarding whether or not Lily and a few other inhumans were searching for the things that were causing the tension between humans and inhumans, and whether or not they were successful in their search. The voice, on the other hand, claims that he would have had a difficult time believing it, but the reason for this is not that it was coming from the inhuman side. Noon informs him that all of this began 33 years ago, which is to say 20 years prior to the outbreak of the most recent major war. Various organizations, including human media, started spreading anti-inhuman sentiments toward individuals. In addition, Layat states that he still remembers that time when he was young, when he and his late wife were getting along and making a promise for their future together. Human and non-human couples were not considered to be all that unusual during that time period. On the other hand, by the time they reached adulthood, things had significantly changed. Even at this late hour, he is unable to forget the peculiar change in the general atmosphere that surrounded their relationship. It was his wife who remained by his side and who had a profound faith in him. It is correct, according to Nyun. If one were to follow the trail, it would lead to a single individual, and that individual would be Deedhauser, the director of the Human Army Intelligence Bureau, the unusual and biased news and information distribution that was entangled by fabricated media in the process. He was the kind of person who held within his grasp the entirety of the information networks that humans had. The fact that it is not the Emperor comes as a surprise to Sheramine. He is curious about Deedhauser's age 33 years ago, and if one were to follow that line of reasoning, he would most likely be between 60 and 70 years old. However, by all appearances, he appears to be quite young. In this world, the aging process is different for every species. Nyun makes an effort to persuade Sheramine to come to terms with that explanation. They will not be able to find out why Deedhauser treats the inhumans with such a high level of hostility, or why he went to such lengths as to initiate a major war, but there is no question that he is the person who is responsible for the destruction of the peace that had been in place for several hundred years. Deedhauser was trying to trick Amelia into believing that the humans were only to a certain degree, and Sheramine has come to the realization that this was the case. She had stated that she had been taught the truth in an appropriate manner, and he remembers her words. On the other side of them, there was something else. Nevertheless, Sheramine is considering the possibility that the reason Deedhauser is attempting to eradicate all of the inhumans is connected to that. On the other hand, Fenel says that the only thing she regrets about her sister is that they were able to defeat the source of what caused this world to become chaotic this time. Moreover, they were successful in acquiring the Atrilia. It is possible that they will be able to complete their rebellion strike back sooner than they had anticipated. Considering the phrase like father, like daughter, Leia inquires of Fenel whether or not they intend to eradicate the human population. However, they do not possess a solution that is as heinous as this one. Despite this, Nyun claims that it was a pretty crazy theory, which is why she chose to keep it a secret from Fenel. However, if they are successful in defeating the mastermind, Deedhauser, there were many people who suggested that. In conclusion, they had 5 different plans to carry out the murder of Deedhauser. Not one, but 3 of them were successful. The appearance of a human broadcast comes as a surprise to everyone, and they are able to observe Deedhauser conducting interviews while standing upright. They are unable to accept it, as they are under the impression that he had most likely committed suicide. According to them, in order for their retaliation to be successful, they need to be aware of his objectives and identity. Although this is going on, Deedhauser is currently conducting interviews with the media at the human capital. Even Monica is having trouble believing what she is witnesses to. During their conversation, her fellow soldier George makes an effort to bring to her attention the fact that Deedhauser is the director of intelligence and reports directly to the Emperor. Monica, on the other hand, claims that he took his own life right in front of their eyes and that he presented himself to them as they returned to this location after their retreat. It is inconceivable that his suicide was a hoax or that he had a body double doing it. As far as George is concerned, it would be a terrible idea to even break into the director's room in order to investigate him because he is involved in state secrets. In the event that they are apprehended, they will be subject to the death penalty. Monica, on the other hand, asserts that it is not nonsense. However, they have discovered records that trace him to the center of inciting the war with the Inhumans. Although they have not discovered his true identity, they have found records on him. In spite of the fact that they have located them, George asks whether or not it does not make her feel sick that there is something unknown at the center among their own people. Monica says that she feels the same way. Amelia appears out of nowhere and reveals that she had gone out earlier to bring some snacks, and that it is a pleasant coincidence that they are also present for the same reason. The fact that the director was present to greet them did not come as a surprise to Monica, who believes that they have been getting along ever since they first met at Atrilia. When it comes to the director, she is completely on his side, and she is unable to relax her guard. Amelia observes that she is engaged in profound contemplation and inquires of Monica. "What is it that is bothering you?" Then, however, Monica recalls that this girl had protected her, and even at that moment, she might have revealed the director's true identity and become an ally of theirs. The arrival of Deedhauser and Amelia comes out of nowhere. Monica tells herself that she must excuse herself because she has some business to attend to. Amelia inquires of Amelia whether or not the investigation into the intruders who were found in the master bedroom has made any headway. Amelia expresses her regret and states that she is still unable to tell the truth. In spite of the fact that she is not very good at this kind of investigation, she has agreed to work with the Lost Damned in order to start another investigation. Deedhauser is the sole authority figure for the Intelligence Bureau, which is the umbrella organization that houses the special police force known as the Damned. Within the human population and the army in question, they are accountable for eliminating any groups or individuals who are considered to be moderates or advocates of inhumans. On the other hand, their actions are becoming increasingly problematic with each passing day, and as a result, they have been reduced to a mere skeleton when compared to the organization that they once were. Deedhauser is annoyed by this, and she expresses her displeasure with the foolish things she has done. Individuals who are directly involved with him and himself are the only ones who will be able to know his secret. On the other hand, it is not as if there are no inhumans in positions of authority who support him. An illustration of this would be the Damned, which he finds to be unappealing. In the event that those individuals are aware of his secret, or if there is anyone who is able to take advantage of his vulnerability, she is unable to conceive of what they will do. She is the one who is in charge of the investigation because he has faith in her in this particular matter. Amelia expresses her regret and insists that she did not intend for it to happen. However, according to Deedhauser, dwelling on regrets from the past is not helpful. She needs to be on the lookout to ensure that this does not turn into a challenge. Monica believes that Deedhauser almost caused her to break out in a cold sweat the following day. She is under the impression that she ought to apologize to Amelia. However, it would be risky for her to begin trusting anyone who works for the Intelligence Bureau. She is curious about the whereabouts of George, who had promised to assist her with the work. She suddenly becomes aware that George is lying on the ground, suffering from severe injuries. The Damned were the ones who carried out the act, and now they have taken notice of Monica and have disclosed that she is being investigated. Monica is already aware that they are searching for the individuals who violated Deedhauser's privacy by breaking into his room. In the event that they are still looking, it indicates that they have not yet discovered the answer. Therefore, she inquires of them what the evidence is that she is the one responsible for the crime. According to the leader of the Damned, they do not possess any evidence, and even if they make an investigation according to the book, they will not discover any evidence. As a result, they have made the decision to initiate an investigation into the individuals who have recently interacted with Deedhauser, who had survived Atrilia. There are already 5 individuals who have confessed to them. Despite this, Monica maintains her self-assurance and expresses how reprehensible this is. It was told to her that the remains of the Damned were notorious for their vileness, but in reality, they are nothing more than thugs on the street. On the other hand, it does not have any impact on them, and they ask Monica to accompany them. They start beating her and tell her that if she does not want to be in a world of pain, she should just come with them. This happens when she resists their demands. Just at that moment, however, Amelia arrives to assist Monica, but the Damned make it difficult for them to do their work. In the event that the suspect does not cooperate with the investigation, the authorities are required to resort to the use of force. Amelia, on the other hand, tells them to pay attention to what she has to say and also informs them that she is aware of the terrible things that they have done to the people who survived Atrilia. It is said that the Damned have requested that she refrain from speaking out about the ways in which they conduct themselves. In the event that she is defending Monica, they will certainly bring her along with them. On the other hand, Amelia continues to defend Monica and asserts that she is aware that Monica has not committed any wrongdoing. Despite the fact that Monica is experiencing some regret about it, she is unable to go along with these guys. As a result, she goes and gets George, and then she makes an attempt to leave, but Amelia prevents the guys from stopping her. Amelia is attacked by the Damned, and as a result, she is rendered unconscious. Due to the fact that she is directly under Deedhauser's supervision, they are considering what they will do in the event that this information becomes public. It is suggested by one of them that they will not be caught, and one of them believes that Amelia is the best candidate for their second chances. Due to the fact that it is located in a remote area, the existence of the Damned's 5th Branch Underground Investigation Center has been forgotten since it was established. Amelia has been kidnapped by the Damned, who are currently holding her in a restraint. As far as one of the guys is concerned, these chains are constructed out of a unique alloy that is so powerful that it cannot even be compared to her monstrous strength. To begin, it is highly likely that she is not at her full strength because of the drugs that she is taking. According to him, she is to blame for this situation because she interfered with official business. According to him, she is a much more convenient suspect because she is directly affiliated with Deedhauser as opposed to a low-ranking soldier who broke into Deedhauser's home. Deedhauser is the target of their resentment, as she can see from their faces. In spite of the fact that they were able to eliminate everyone who stood in Deedhauser's way, he discarded them once he had finished using them. Because Amelia is always by his side, it is reasonable to assume that she is aware of his weaknesses as well as other information. As a result, he asks her to assist them in crushing Deedhauser with the understanding that he will also discard her once he has finished using her. Amelia, on the other hand, asserts that she shall not betray her master. The damned continue to say that until she herself implores to be given permission to speak. Amelia is unable to take this any longer and cries out for assistance. Suddenly, they become aware that someone is approaching from below. "My name is Amelia." She claims that the damned were, in fact, a completely despicable group and that her assessment of them was incorrect. When Amelia sees Amelia, she is overjoyed. This location also includes Monica and George. In spite of the fact that Amelia is on the director's side, Monica believes that she cannot relax her guard around her. Not only is Amelia the one who has saved her on multiple occasions, but she is also the one who cannot just abandon her here to protect herself. Amelia claims that she is aware of their wrongdoing, but because she witnessed it firsthand, she is the one who is responsible for cleaning it up, because it was her mistake initially. It is Amelia who assaults the group. However, at that precise moment, the leader of the damned group places a sword on Amelia's throat and requests that Amelia put her hands up and drop the weapon she is holding. In response to the request to save Amelia, Amelia complies. Nevertheless, at that precise moment, the individual strikes Amelia with a glass bottle, causing her to fall to her knees. He claims that he has always been on her side, but according to him, she has been terrible to her previous supporters. At this point, they have managed to capture both Amelia and Amelia. However, they are also concerned that if it is discovered that they have gotten their hands on either of Deedhauser's assistants, they will not be able to escape responsibility. They are unable to return at this time. They are going to continue to keep the two of them as their personal pets, even after they have managed to obtain his weaknesses. On the other hand, Deedhauser appears out of nowhere and points a gun at the leader of the damned. He then asserts that his secret and those girls are solely his as his property. Amelia and Amelia are overjoyed to be reunited with their ruler. The damned claim that this is a very effective strategy for them, and that Deedhauser has arrived to request that he remain in place. It has been stated by Deedhauser that he will not relocate because he has already found a solution to this problem. Suddenly, a large number of bullets and projectiles begin to attack the damned from all directions. As Deedhauser points out, he ought not to have allowed the trash to go bad for such a long time. Amelia is grateful to everyone who came to her rescue. Deedhauser, on the other hand, suggests that these two might be exceptional, but that there are many aspects of them that are not significantly different from those of regular humans. He also advises them to exercise caution the next time. Amelia, on the other hand, is still considering what the damned told her, which is that Deedhauser will dispose of them once he is finished with them. Amelia simply responds by saying that she will be more careful in the future. Deedhauser finds out about it and inquires as to whether there is something wrong. In addition, Deedhauser expresses his gratitude to Monica and George for their role in saving Amelia. He tells them that he is an ally of humans and that they should feel comfortable around him. Monica and George, on the other hand, are curious about his true identity and the purpose he is on. All the inhuman girls are gathered for a girls' party. Leona, who has just emerged from the bathroom, inquires as to the reason for all the commotion. Gloria informs her that they are having a girls' night and that they are having a good time discussing the types of voices that they find attractive. Her question to Fenel is whether there is anything that she is looking for, such as coolness. In accordance with Fenel, that would be Sheramine. When it comes to coolness, fighting alongside Sheramine is the most cool thing an individual could possibly do. In particular, the day that she came back to life, and the way that he appeared when he fought for her sake. It continues to be a dream for her. Additionally, Fenel asserts that the chemistry between them is incredible. In the end, it's possible that their encounter was predetermined. It has been brought to my attention that Sheramine's birthday is tomorrow, and she is going to make a present for him. The supply shipment that is scheduled to arrive tomorrow should bring it with it. However, the eldest sister was the recipient of the most recent gift that she gave to anyone. It is only her hope that it will bring him joy. In an attempt to justify her actions, Leona claims that Noon had called her earlier. The fact that Fenel actually enjoys Sheramine is a topic that everyone is discussing. In the end, she is still a young girl when it comes to love, and she is not making any headway in this area. The following day, Sheramine and Lude engage in a friendly fight, and Sheramine emerges victorious by virtue of her superior strength. Lude expresses his gratitude to him and remarks that he did a good job of claiming victory. Going up against the Holy Sword and being on the same level as it with nothing but raw strength is, according to him, an incredible experience. For the reason that yesterday's broadcast was broadcast, everyone is really putting in a lot of effort in their practice. The fact that they were able to conquer Atrilia appears to have given them a sense of pride, as Lude states that their adversary is powerful and numerous. He claims that it is accurate to say that the human population is currently at an overwhelming level. A perfect scenario would be one in which they were able to increase their numbers before making their next move. Sheramine, on the other hand, asserts that despite the fact that they are lacking, the primary force only needs to make up for the gaps. Anyhow, they ought to return to his training as soon as possible. At the same time that Fenel is observing Sheramine train, he remarks that he is definitely going for it. Sheramine inquires as to the reason behind her euphoric disposition on this particular day. Fenel informs him that the supply shipment for today includes, and before she could finish her sentence, someone informs her that their shipment has been attacked. It is beyond Fenel's ability to believe. On the other hand, at the location where the attack took place, a young boy named Tsukumo, who has enormous rabbit ears, inquires of his subordinates as to whether or not they have gathered all of the valuable cargo. He asserts that he would never have considered aiming his attacks at the inhuman army supplies that the Dark Queen possesses. As would be expected of a leader, they are a combination of inhumans and humans, members of the Four Years, who do not belong with either the human or the inhuman species. They are unable to conceal themselves because they have constructed their own empire. If they continue to act in this manner, his fellow Sumeyer wonders if they will eventually be brought to ruin as a result of their actions. Tsukumo, on the other hand, assures her that she does not need to be concerned about the situation because the inhuman army is already so busy fighting the humans, and because they are such a small group, they do not have the time to deal with them. Fenel, Sheramine, and Lude all arrived at the location at precisely that moment. To steal the belongings of another person is, according to Fenel, an inexcusable act. She is going to force them to return her present as well as all of their supplies. The fact that she is taking this matter so seriously comes as a surprise to the 4 Years. The envoy of the Holy Sword is brought to Tsukumo's attention. Nevertheless, Sheramine draws attention to the fact that all of them are children and 4 Years, and she inquires of Fenel whether or not they are about to attack them. While holding Fenel with her branches, Gloria explains that because Fenel has lost her composure, she will be the one to take command of the situation. According to the appearance of the situation, a group of armed 4 Years children have attacked their supply delivery, because they contain blood from both sides of the bloodline. They are both human and inhuman. When the Great War broke out, they were considered to be outcasts by both sides of the conflict. In order to ensure their own survival, they formed a coalition. According to Gloria, as she has heard that up until this point, they have been able to survive by simply stealing provisions. However, ever since they became led by a new individual, they have become more extreme. Moreover, she asserts that it must be Tsukumo. They appear to be of a species that is not compatible with one another. Sheramine inquires as to whether or not the 4 Years possess characteristics of more than one species. According to Lude, he has never heard of something like that before. Their appearance is strikingly similar to that of the fictional character Chimera. Due to the fact that he is not allowed to use weapons on children, Lude begins beating the 4 Years. When Sumeyer is confronted by Sheramine, he reveals that the fact that she is a hybrid of many different species must make her appearance unattractive to him. On the other hand, Sheramine asserts that he does not hold that opinion, rather he considers her to be attractive. In spite of this, Tsukumo asserts that he is going to establish a free empire in which no one is subject to oppression. It is an anti-Krieger mechanism that the Inhumans have developed, and he gives orders to his subordinates to use the things that they stole from the supplies. Now that they have been struck by that, they do not even have a chance of survival. To construct barriers, Lude gives orders to all of the troops. Tsukumo uses the mechanism to launch an assault on the Inhumans, but he fails to hit the target and instead hits the cliff. The young man asserts that he must first read the instruction manual. Sheramine, on the other hand, makes use of his tenacious blade to disturb and break the cliff, thereby saving the 4 Years. He claims that he is also the type of person who does not read the manual, and that if they ended up doing this stuff, because they were thrown out by humans and inhumans, then they are not bad people. It is his invitation to them to accompany him. Despite the fact that it appears that a great deal has transpired in the past, it is now evident to them that the inhumans already possess a number of 4 years. In Sheramine's opinion, they are able to begin again. After Tsukumo has informed them that they are unable to fool them, he orders his troops to retreat for the time being, and they manage to escape. However, Fenel advises that pursuing them is risky, and since they have already obtained their supplies, they should also withdraw from the area. Afterwards, Fenel celebrates Sheramine's birthday by throwing a party for her. It appears that Sheramine has forgotten that it is his birthday. The time that has passed since he was brought into this world is already 2 months. The fact that 1 month measures the same amount of time in this world is a fascinating coincidence. Fenel hands Sheramine his gift and asks him to open it. Sheramine accepts the gift. It's a nice jacket to have. According to Fenel, she had this made to order because his clothes were shredded while he was fighting against the man they were fighting against. She was also involved, according to Nyun, to a certain extent. When Fenel inquires about it, Sheramine expresses her hope that he enjoys it. Fenel is thanked by Sheramine, who then pats her head and remarks that it is appropriate according to his preferences. Despite the fact that Fenel is a little irritated by the fact that he is treating her like a child once more, she believes that she is mistaken. By the time Sheramine wakes up the following morning, he discovers that Fenel is already occupying his bed. He inquires as to whether or not she had consumed alcohol and sneaked back into his bed. It is a memory that Sheramine has that Nyun shared with him that Fenel has a deep desire to be pampered by someone. It would appear that she has the ability to select whose bed she will enter, which is evidence that she has faith in him. Sheramine looks down and notices that there is something on his back as well. He is taken aback to see Sumire, who is there. But Sumire claims that Sheramine is the one who extended the invitation to her. After giving Sheramine a kiss, she suggests that the two of them should get along. Evidently, Fenel does not find it very amusing.